Fuck yo, deep fat hope. Hey y'all, what's up? As you might not know, if you don't come to these, I see a few people say they never catch it live. I'm assuming that maybe some people have never caught it at all. We kind of tend to start by just chatting with the chat for a minute, and whatever, because it takes a minute. I don't always necessarily hit my stride right away. Usually it takes me about, an hour to get going good, and then about 20 minutes after that, I'm back to the decline. So at some point we'll hit that peak where I'm actually good for a second, where you see like a small glimmer of 2011 TJ, and then it's right back down to the abyss of 2019 TJ. But for that reason, we fucking we start talking about this, And for those of you who love to say error, I actually found the perfect intermission graphic. I'll show it to you real quick. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. So there's that. That works that way. Pretty good stuff. Yeah, bitch. Do I ever think about what G-Man's up to? No. I never have. I don't do things. I only contemplate things. Hold on. Wanted to fucking maybe watch some movie trailers at some point during this, but I didn't pull any. So I'm just going to go here, and maybe we can figure out together what to watch. TJ, what would be worse to be up against, a xenomorph or the Thing? Definitely the Thing. Because a xenomorph, as intimidating a predator as it is, it at least seems feasible to kill the fucking motherfucker. I almost said it almost seems feasible to kill the Thing, but I realized that would be a confusing way to phrase it in this instance. No, but if you have like a fucking M16, you might be able to take out the xenomorph, but you ain't taking out the Thing. You ain't even gonna fucking slow it down. So, how's growing the beard treating you? I guess fine. I mean, you can see it, right? It's something there. What about the thing inhabiting a xenomorph? I don't think the thing inhabits anything. I don't like the. My understanding of how the thing works is not that it's inhabiting things. It's just taking. It basically kills you and then takes your form to hide itself. So you wouldn't. The thing wouldn't necessarily inhabit a xenomorph. It would just kill a xenomorph and then take the form of a xenomorph to, I guess, infiltrate the other xenomorphs. So, how do you prefer I contact you to unblock me on Twitter? I've never sent you a message in my life. I don't know. That's up to you. You'll have to figure that one out. Bender Pones, your brother is a lost cause. I don't know what that's referring to. Maybe someone else in the chat. Oh, my brother, who has tons of student debt, is excited that Bloomberg is running because he thinks he is the only one to beat Trump. How do I slap sense into this man? I don't know. Just keep him away from the voting booth. I don't know. I didn't know. I mean, I'm honestly kind of shocked that there's anyone actually excited for Bloomberg to run, because I did momentarily consider the possibility of like, hey, maybe I will cover Bloomberg, And then I thought to myself, well, no one's even going to support him anyway, so it's pretty much a joke. And it's not even for certain he's running yet. I mean, he's definitely strongly considering it, but I've read articles as of recently as, a few hours ago. They're like, well, maybe Bloomberg's not going to run. I don't think he should. I mean, we already have a way too crowded Democratic field. Bloomberg is not an exciting candidate unless you really just get hyped about, hey, I hope someone comes along that wants to prevent me from buying a large soda, I don't think that doesn't sound great to me. I don't know. Have you stopped smoking or vaping or just not doing it inside? Yeah, I'm still smoking. Probably about 7 or 8 cigarettes a day, maybe sometimes a little more than that. I was sneaking some inside every now and then, but then my wife woke me up in the middle of the night with a knife to my balls, and she's like, if you smoke in this house one more time, I'm taking them nuts, bitch. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and not fight this battle. I think we're good. I think I'm gonna smoke outside like the fucking dog that I am. What if a bunch of the things started hunting each other? Once again, I don't think that's how the thing works. I don't think that there can be multiple. I think the thing is just, even if there's 10 of them, it's still the thing. I don't know if there's a hive mind. I mean, those things are not really explored completely in the movies, but, whatever. You're going to cover that New Zealand chick saying, okay, boomer. Not her specifically, but I will address that at some point during this show if I get to that story. We got a lot to go through, so I'm not sure if we'll reach that one, but it is on the roster. Oh, yeah. What balls? Ha, 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 ha. Actually, to be fair to me, which I'm so rarely am, but I might have a small dick, but my balls are huge, pendulous orbs that are just monstrous in nature. I think my balls are probably about twice the size of a normal man's. So there's that. But yeah. Small dick, huge balls. It's like a fucking Vienna sausage, beset by by 2 fucking oranges or something. Yeah, I think that the rules of the thing are kept kind of vague, simply because it's scarier if you don't exactly know what its capabilities are. Oranges. Yeah, a lot of people don't like the way I say oranges because I tend to not place very much emphasis at all on the A. I kind of just breeze by it. So the way I say it is almost like the A isn't there. But, that's one of those words that people don't like the way I say it. So I don't know. But everyone I know around me kind of seems to say it that way. So I don't know. Maybe it's a Southern thing. I ain't sure. I mean, I would trade my gigantic balls for a big dick any day, you know? Like, if I could say, all right, so I'll shrink down to normal sized balls, but I want a huge dick. Or even if my balls were a little on the small side, you know? Just give me a fucking 10-inch dick and we're good. You know? Seems fair to me. Do bigger balls produce more semen? Yes. Yes, I would say they do. I hate how you pronounce Roman boom. Yeah, I don't even. That one's a weird one because I don't even hear. You know, when I say orange and people point it out, I can tell what I'm doing wrong. They want me to say it more like orange, you know? But when people make fun of the way I say room, I can't even hear it. Like, to me, it sounds like I'm saying the right thing, but other people, they hear it different. So, obviously, I'm not. Um, how about 10 inches for no balls? Now, I got to have some kind of balls going on, you know? I need to be able to come a little bit. I don't care if it's a small load, but it's got to be a load. Can't totally give up on the balls, you know? Now, I'll admit it'd be kind of comical to have a 10-inch dick and some kind of tiny little balls, but, you know, I'd be willing to make that trade. Hi, TJ. I'm making a documentary on if men should sit when they pee. Would love your thoughts. You know, I think that sometimes I'll sit to pee. Not usually, but it is cleaner for sure because it's not like my aim is bad, but my piss stream is so powerful and I'm up so much higher than, you know, the toilet is usually that there's a lot of blowback, you know? Like the piss hits the toilet and it just kind of bounces out, you know, causes the water to fucking spray back up and shit. So there's that, which you can avoid by sitting down to pee. I'm told that dudes with big dicks, when they're sitting on the toilet, their dick hangs down into the water, you know, if you got a really big dick. So it might not even be practical for some men to do that. But, you know, if you got a normal or small dick, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with sitting down to pee. I don't feel like it's emasculating or something. Usually what I'll sit down to pee is if I have to piss really fucking bad. You ever get to that point in needing to piss where there's like so much pressure that it's like hard to start pissing, you know? And then it's actually a little easier if you sit down because then you can kind of relax a little bit and your bladder can fucking release. So that's always good. But as far as a cultural thing, like, I mean, it's definitely cleaner, but it's also way more convenient to just whip it out and piss. So, I mean, I think it should be a man's choice how he's going to piss, but I think that every man should give sitting down to piss its due consideration and, you know, maybe decide what situations it's appropriate in, you know? I don't think we need to make a big cultural issue out of the fucking shit. I would say if we ever decide to gender integrate bathrooms and just kind of like, all right, we're done with this gendered bathroom shit. We're just gonna all share bathrooms. Then maybe, you know, maybe the proper decorum at that point would be for men to sit down when possible. I don't know. That's a discussion to have when that happens, if that happens. But as things stand now, I think that you know, it's a man's choice how he's gonna piss. There's my sand. Do you piss over the waistband or through the fly? You know, it's either way. It's depending on the pants. You know, it's whatever's most convenient for the pair of pants I'm wearing. But you know, yeah, I've heard some countries they're trying to like make men pee like that and stuff. I don't think there should be any sort of mandate. I think, you know, you should be able to piss how you want to piss. But I think that men who get like some kind of macho thing about it, like, oh, I'm not sitting down to piss because that's girly or whatever, I think they're a bunch of cretins too. I think if you're attaching any sort of masculinity or emotions to it, then you're just being a moron. It should be a completely practical goddamn decision that's just based on what's most convenient and what's appropriate for the time and place and situation. I poop standing. Gross. They say even flushing the toilet sprays water and pee drops all over the bathroom. That's true. would you stomp a baby's skull for $100 billion? Do people know I did it? Like, what's the explanation to the outside world of how I got that $100 billion? Because, I mean, you could easily fucking fix your shitty conscience with that, right? Like, okay, I stomped a baby's skull to get this $100 billion, but now I can use some portion of that money to save people, So really, it was all worth it in the moral, in the great moral scheme of things. I saved more lives than I hurt, so it's okay, I don't know. I don't think anyone can answer that kind of question when you're talking about that kind of money. I don't think anyone really has an answer to that. I think people want to be like, hell no, I wouldn't. Or if they want to be edgy, they're like, hell yes, I would. But I really don't think unless you're actually faced with that, like, here's the $100 billion, here's the baby, will you stomp on its head to take the money? I don't think anyone knows what they're going to do until they're put in that fucking situation. TJ, how many people did you kill? Only 457. And that was mostly in the 70s when murder was legal. So murder was legal in the 70s. I think we can all agree that that's a fact. So I'm not liable for any of those supposed crimes, Because, like I said, I mean, it was perfectly legal. Back in the 70s, murdering somebody was like saying hello. It was just, people didn't think of it. It's like, hey, you want to go grab a beer and then maybe commit a few murders? And people were like, yeah, sure, why not? It got to the point in the 70s, like around 78, 79, where murder was just flat out boring. People were just like, all right, enough of this murder shit. Maybe we ought to fucking recriminalize it because it's just getting dull, It's just getting cliche. It was exciting for a while, but now it's like lost its fucking luster. You know what I'm saying? Before I get too far into shit, I've been getting I've been getting bothered by my family who their dog Rebel is sick, This dog here, see this dog? This is a dog. It's a chocolate lab. He's super cool, super sweet dog and shit. Really nice doggy, fucking super sweet and all that. And he's in a lot of pain. He's had some bulging disc problems. He recently got some surgery for it, but he's still having problems, and they're still having to go back, and looks like they might have to do more surgeries and stuff. And so I was asked, if I would put forth this link to this GoFundMe page to try to help them out. I've linked to it in the description down below. And, if you're an animal lover, pet lover, dog lover, what the fuck ever, and you want to help out a good dog in some pain, then, there it is. And every time I see my stepdad recently, he's like, put my GoFundMe out there. Put my GoFundMe out there. You need to help my dog. I mean, like, it's like on his mind constantly where he's just like, he can't barely think of anything else other than his dog because he's so attached to the dog. And I understand that because, I'm one of those fucking cliche motherfuckers that's always like, I love dogs more than people and shit. There's my wife in there saying that Rebel has the most human emotions of any dog she's ever met, and she's a dog groomer by trade, so she knows dogs. So this is a very, very human dog with a very, like, deep, rich, sort of emotional character and shit. So, help him out if you can, if you want to. I'm not going to try to push it super hard because I just, I know there's like a million of these GoFundMes out there, but, if you want to help my fucking family out, it's there to do. Anyway, what's this? All right, I should have fucking, here we go. This is Restoring Sexism, the Lost Virtue. So it's time to go back to sexism. Enough of this not sexism. We need sexism again, God damn it. I didn't even know Rick and Morty was happening tonight, but that's a fun little treat for when I'm done here. I can go watch Rick and Morty, so that's cool. Um, this someone sent me this and said that this dude who wrote it is like the big pastor in their town and shit. Like this is their, like he runs the big church in town or whatever the fuck. So let's take a look at it. So the Bible is a sexist book. And that fact alone should make Christians want to acknowledge that sexism has to be a virtue. Or you could acknowledge that the Bible is full of shit. I don't know. Maybe you could do that too. And because the Bible has been assiduously ignored when it comes to these matters for these many years, what does that mean? This should make us realize that it is also a lost virtue. Therefore, it must be renewed or restored or recovered or perhaps even reupholstered. Ha ha ha. Words that start with jokes. Fucking awesome. So here's the first little paragraph of this shit. It's not a troll. My understanding is this is not trolling. This is a real fucking thing. Maybe the person who sent it to me is trolling, but I'm going to treat it as if it's a real fucking thing because that's how it was presented to me. A story is told, and is perhaps apocryphal, about Vince Lombardi talking to his players after they had gotten badly beaten one time. Men, he said, it is time for us to go back to the fundamentals. And holding up the ball, he said, this is a football. What a charming fucking story, man. It really fucking makes you think. When it comes to the optimal relationship between the sexes, I think we are pretty much at that point. Actually, I mean, we are way past that point. What if the football identifies as a 6-year-old Asian girl? Well, you don't have to worry about that since footballs don't have the ability to identify as things, you know? Other people can identify the football that way, I guess, if they want to. But the football itself doesn't have a say because it's an inanimate object and it doesn't have a consciousness or any sort of emotional makeup or any of that shit. So luckily, we don't have to worry about the ball's feelings. It doesn't have any. About the only thing the football couldn't identify as would be a Brooklyn rabbi, and that is because a pigskin isn't kosher. Oh, man, he's just rolling with these fucking jokes. I love it. Although there is reason to believe that we will soon overcome obstacles like that, we are starting to stray from the point. Starting to? We haven't even gotten to the point yet, if there is one. So, all right. Sounds good to me. As we have now established, this is November. It's also No Nut November for a lot of people. I don't know why. I don't know what people get into that. Anyway, we're straying from the point. Let me get back to the point and just say it. We have all been snookered. Damn, I didn't even realize. Sexism is certainly a sin against the gods of egalitarianism, but those gods are not gods at all. They are rather little wisps of aspirational fog floating off the sewage lagoon of late-stage secularism. Yeah, man, I got stage 4 secularism. It's real bad. They said my aspirational fog is churning out there's more than wisps for me. It's fucking big plumes of goddamn egalitarianism coming off my stage 4 secularism, believe me. And so we have no reason to feel bad about committing any such sins. If they are not gods at all, then sin against their commandments are not sins at all. I love this fucking worldview where everything, nothing counts unless it has the God seal of approval. Like, what does God think? And then they ask him, like, hey, God, what's up? What you think about all this? And God's like, cut off the skin of your dick. No butt fucking. You know, it's like people are like, the wisdom of the creator. No, we can't rationally assess things and be like, let's figure out the world as intelligent human beings. No, we have to defer to some Bronze Age fucking deity sitting on a throne, you know, telling everybody don't butt fuck because it pisses me off. The living God has given us his word, and nowhere in that word does it say that sexism is a sin against him. That means it is not a sin at all. In fact, various things that our culture defines as sexist are enshrined as virtues in Scripture, and this means that Christians should stop their furtive glancing from side to side and simply acknowledge that it is high time for us to recover the lost virtue of sexism. But what would such a recovery look like? How might we recover our sexist heritage? How shall we know when we have recovered it? The heart and soul of a restored sexism is to recognize that God created men and women with different natures and has commanded us to recognize those natures as different and to treat men and women differently simply because they are men and women respectively. There, I said it. I don't feel like you really have said it, though, because you're not really making it clear what the place of either of these sexes are in society. But then again, we have a lot more article to go through, so maybe you're building to those points. Now, I think if you're writing an article called, like, hey, let's bring sexism back, you should be a little bit more clear on what exactly sexism is, what it consists of, and all that shit. But I guess that just wasn't a fucking priority for you. So here's the next one, a primer on boys and girls. Boys and girls are different. Men and women are different. The differences are not superficial or accidental, but rather are profound, extending from the tops of their heads down to the soles of their boots or flats or whatever the case may be. I don't really think that there's any difference in the soles of the boots. Pretty sure a boot is a boot, whether it's being worn by a man or a woman. Also pretty sure the top of their heads is pretty much what it is, you know. It's a fucking bunch of skin with some hair follicles and some hair growing out. Well, not in my case anymore, but, you know, in other people's cases, there's hair growing out. I mean, I guess mine's still technically growing, but, you know, whatever. Neither here nor there. Blah, blah, blah. The difference between them affect everything and are found in virtually every aspect of their lives. Men and women both have 10 toes, and men and women both have 2 kidneys, but that's about it. I think there's a little bit more than that, but whatever. Healthy cultures budget for these differences. Healthy cultures train boys and girls in terms of them. Boys are taught that they need to learn how to do this. Wow, just blow me away with the specificity. Finally, some fucking detail. Do this. Right, of course, do this. Everyone knows. Because they are boys. Girls are trained to do certain things because they are girls. Well, let me ask you this. If these differences are so inborn and innate, why the fuck we gotta train the fucking boys and girls to be like boys? We gotta train you how to be boys. It's like, well, no, you just said it's a fucking innate difference. So what's the fucking training for, huh? It's like, you know, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Not only is sexism a virtue, but so is stereotyping. Cool, love it. I want to interrupt these proceedings in order to remind everyone that this is no quarter November and not no kidding November. In other words, I am not skylarking here, but rather making a serious point. Well, actually, I am skylarking a bit. I don't know what the term skylarking means, but that doesn't affect the seriousness of the point. All right, cool. Rock on, buddy. You fucking skylark to your heart's content. All right, so what's at stake? Here's where he's going to lay out the fucking what's on the line. Up to this point, I dare say that quite a few conservatives are cheering me on in all such observations because they are currently being appalled by the androgynous endgame. They are horrified by the insanities surrounding restrooms and showers and bio males competing against girls and all that kind of thing. And of course, I am against all of that too. All right, good for you. But you can't dial those things back a little bit if the culture has gone insane. You can't call it a great reformation when you go back to almost insane. Oh, yeah. Good point. Good. There's no fucking gradient here. That's the fucking solid point, man. There's no way that you can be like, I'm going to take this, and this, but I'm not going to take that. You can't have like a gradient of beliefs where it's like, I'm here, you know, I'm not quite here, but I'm here. You know what I'm saying? No, there's just fucking sides. You on this side or you on this side? There ain't no middle ground between them sides. Choose your fucking side and stick to it. That's it. To make this point a little clearer, thanks, I am not just talking about Bruno not being able to shower with the junior high girls. Well, I feel like she'd change her name to, like, you know, Brunoetta or something. Brunette, you know? I am also talking about women not being able to go to the Naval Academy or West Point. And I am saying that they shouldn't be allowed to apply simply because they are female. No other reason is needed. Seems to me like if they can do it, then they can do it. I don't know. I don't see what the problem is. Women are not supposed to be warriors, and we shouldn't be training them to be warriors. Well, I mean, if they want to be warriors, why not? You know, if a woman can go fucking kick some ass, let her kick the ass. And I know that, you know, obviously women are not as predisposed to that. That seems clear. But, you know, that doesn't, you know, there's exceptions to every fucking rule. You know, there's women who want to fucking get all fucking buff and ripped and punch people and fucking shoot guns and all that shit. And there's men who want to fucking put on an apron and bake some fucking chocolate chip cookies, you know? I mean, like, do what you fucking want to do. I don't understand. Like, what's wrong with self-determination? Why should there be all these paths that are like, this path is closed to you because of your genitalia? I just don't see why that should be a fucking thing. And it's not because of the fucking, it's the gospel of egalitarianism. It's just like, that seems rational to me. If you want to disagree with that, and all you've got is like, well, my big imaginary friend in the sky says that it's wrong, I don't respect that fucking point of view because I don't believe in your big, stupid fucking faggot in the sky. And as long as I don't, why would I fucking give any deference to this position or point of view? Anyway, I know there are numerous conservatives. There will be numerous conservatives, and you can supply your own scare quotes here, that will be upset by this. And it is a kind of conservative, it's that kind of conservative who's the problem, right? This is the kind of conservative who never conserves anything except the most recent progressive achievements. After women were introduced into combat roles, it took Fox News about 5 months to start saluting our brave men and women in uniform. And they also, without even blinking, routinely show footage of service members returning from deployment in such a way as to surprise their family members, you know, those heartstring videos. And they make no distinction whatever between men returning home from war and women returning home from war. Here's mom back from Afghanistan. If that doesn't make you sick and angry, then you are an essential part of the problem. Yeah, it makes me so sick when people go off and fight my wars for me. I mean, look, I'm anti-war. I don't believe in all this hero worship of the troops, but if you're going to get into that jingoistic American mentality where the troops can do no wrong, then how the fuck are you going to say that a woman who goes to Afghanistan and fights, how are you going to fucking deny her the respect you give a man in that same situation, right? It doesn't make sense to me. Seems like they've earned your fucking respect. You have all this rhetoric about how the troops are fighting for your freedom. So if a woman goes and fights for your freedom, you know, she deserves every bit of the same respect that you give a man who does that. And fuck what the Bible has to say about it. You can shove the Bible up your fucking useless goddamn ass, as far as I'm concerned. It's about the most useful thing you could do with that goddamn book in the first place. Right? Right. So the mirror of nature. Oh my God, how much longer is this? It just goes on and on and on. Okay. We'll go. Oh my God, this fucking section is forever. All right. Let's see what else you got to say. Upon occasion, traditionalist conservatives will make an argument from nature, and it is an argument that resonates with those who still have some common sense hidden away in the basement. All right. Last year, when the federal government was engaged in that massive push, the big common sense buyback, there were many, I have it on reliable authority, who ignored the federal dictate and who have kept quiet a bit of unregistered common sense in their possession. Oh my God, this writing style, so tiresome. You're not funny, dog. The shit that I know you're trying to be funny. I know you think that this is like some gold humor and shit going on, but it ain't. You ain't Cheech and Chong, bitch. You ain't funny. Fuck off with that. Just get to your goddamn stupid, imbecilic fucking point, all right? And this is why appeals to nature work for many people. They still use their common sense, but appeals to nature don't work with others. And so I want to walk through something here. How should we learn from nature? Okay. Female robins build the nest, and male robins, when it comes to nest building, just horse around, helping only occasionally. If you spot a robin building a nest, the chances are excellent to outstanding that you are watching the female. And the chances are even better that the patriarchy had nothing to do with this arrangement. The female robin is not trapped in stereotypes derived from the 1950s. The female robin was not indoctrinated by Victorians. The bird is simply doing what is in her nature to do. Okay, but let's look at the fucking hyena then, because the fucking hyenas live in a female-dominated society where the females actually fuck the males in the ass with their giant fucking huge clits. You know? That's nature too. And we're not robins. We're not even hyenas. We're human beings. You know, and the fucking brain power in this fucking gray matter, it's a little bit like it gives us a little bit more ability to change nature than other animals have. A robin doesn't fucking have any ability to question like, hey, why are gender roles like this? Is this really the best way to do things? We do have that fucking capacity. We have that in our nature. And by the way, it's that same fucking capacity for reason that led us to say, hey, maybe there's better shelter than just hiding out in this fucking cave. Maybe there's a better way to fucking get food than scavenging. Maybe we can grow our own food. Maybe we can domesticate some of these animals we're eating so that we have a fucking steady supply of them. You know, if we're just going to fucking defer to what the bare bones of what nature made us, then we should just be troops of hunter-gatherers. You know, the women gather, the men hunt, and you know, we don't have any modern technology. You know, the best we got is like a fucking spear or something. And just be content with that, because that's about all nature gave us. Well, no, nature gave us something else. Nature gave us a brain capable of going, maybe I could do this a little fucking smarter. Maybe I could extrapolate a new and different way of doing things that's better than what nature just fucking gave me as my default, right? Hey, I don't have big claws. I make spear. Hey, I fucking attach spear to string and stick, and I make arrow. Hey, I figured out gunpowder. Now I can shoot gun, you know? Oh, get a bunch of gunpowder together. Now I can make bomb. You know, it's just like we're constantly figuring out new and better ways of doing things. But when it comes to gender roles, we should look to the fucking robin and be like, hey, the robin does it this way. So who are we to question the wisdom of a pea-brained little fucking bird? Ugh. What a twat. You're a moron. Who's this guy? What's this fucking moron's name? Douglas Wilson? Hey, Douglas Wilson, I have some, you know what? I think I have a fucking revelation, dude. I just noticed something about nature. Do you ever notice, Douglas Wilson, that your mouth is around the same size as my balls? It's almost like they belong together. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should suck my fucking balls. Maybe that's your role in society, motherfucker. You ever think of that? I did, because I got a big fucking brain. And it's a powerful one, and it makes connections. I felt some neurons. I had a neuron over here. I had a neuron over here, and this like bzz, sent a signal, and that signal said, this guy should suck my balls. That's what the fucking signal said, bitch. I don't know how you feel about it. Maybe we can get together. You can call me, bitch. Anytime. I'm willing to get my balls sucked by a fucking closeted Christian conservative cocksucker anytime. But I'm not going to make you suck my cock. It's unimpressive. You're not going to enjoy it. But I bet you'd really enjoy sucking the fucking vinegar off my ball sack, bitch. I think you might like that. I think you might find that that's in God's plan. Any fucking way. Enough of that horse shit. I ain't fucking looking at no more. It's garbage. Yeah. Disgusting. Disgusting and retarded bullshit. Fuck that guy. Fuck him in the ass, fuck him in the mouth, fuck him in the west, fuck him in the south. The end. I win. Go away. What else is going on, huh? What you guys think? I heard Rick and Morty's happening tonight. I don't get to watch it because I'm doing this. But, you know, whatever. I would have fucking scheduled this shit differently if I'd known. But I didn't know. No one told me. No one tells me shit anymore, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to watch it after this, you know? New video scandal for TJ. Cool. Give me the video. Give me the scandal. Clap, clap, clap. To be fair, from his perspective, the bird is the one with the bigger brain. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. I forgot this is all relative, you know? Yet another error. Error. TJ, what if you had the physique of Thor? Well, I have been working out, so maybe I'll get there, you know? Maybe I'll get to that point. But I'm not there yet. Where the fuck's the air conditioner remote? There it is. Get some airflow in here. $500 says TJ won't acknowledge my comment. Cool. Give me the $500. Gimme. Because I acknowledge the shit out of it. I really like Rick and Morty, but I don't like to admit that I am a fan in public. Why not? What kind of pussy shit is that? You won't even stand by what you like? Why? You get some, like, fucking peer pressure or something? Somebody's like, Rick and Morty is so, toxic fan base. And you're like, oh, yeah, I don't like that. I don't like it at all. Did you hear about YouTube banning people and deactivating their Google accounts for using emojis on Markiplier's stream? I did hear about that. I don't know much about it, but it sounds ridiculous. I mean, obviously, if that's all there is to it, if it's like, oh, you used too many emojis, so now you're gone. You're gone forever. No more of that shit. It's like, what? Why is that a big deal? TJ should wear a turtleneck in the next episode just to make him look even more dumb. Even more dumb? I didn't know I looked dumb to start with. What the fuck? What's wrong with how I look? I look dumb? I mean, I got a giant fucking forehead, so I don't know. I feel like maybe I look kind of smart. Like a super brainiac motherfucker. Oh, yes, of course. But I don't know. Maybe I do look dumb. I don't know, man. And by the way, when did turtlenecks, when was that associated with stupidity? You don't make no sense, bro. There's always going to be cringy fans in any fan base. Who cares? Imagine caring what people on the internet think. I know, right? I just imagine Twitch doing that. It'll be dead in an hour if they did something like that. Actually, I do hate emojis, so maybe it's a good thing. Now that I'm really thinking about it. Would you like living in the matriarchy where men are oppressed? No. I don't think we should be oppressing motherfuckers, man. I don't think we should be oppressing men or women. Here's my idea. Let's not oppress. Let's just let people fucking all have the same rights and opportunities and shit. That sounds good, right? Using emojis on Markiplier's channel sounds like the best way to get Google to stop tracking you. All right, yeah, if anyone wants to delete all their Google shit, just go post some emojis on a Markiplier stream, and apparently Google will just purge you from the system. Did you see the new policy update where you can be fined almost 40 or 50 grand if your content is aimed at children? If your content is aimed at children is inappropriate. I don't really see how that would be enforced, but no, I didn't see that. Whatever. I don't make fucking children's content, obviously. So it doesn't sweat off my balls for that. I just wonder who's going to determine what's appropriate and inappropriate, because it seems like that's like kind of subjective. I also don't see how YouTube would enforce that kind of fine, That's like walking into McDonald's and being like, oh, excuse me, sir, there's a no blue tennis shoes rule. We got to fine you $1 million because you're wearing blue tennis shoes. It's like, what? How do you enforce that? I think the guy posed the matriarchy question because it plays into some sexual fantasy of his. Well, that's fine, like he can have that in his own house, right? Go find some domineering bitch that wants to fuck you in the butt with a strap on every night and fucking stomp on your balls and put cigarettes out on your mouth and whatever the hell else you like and be like, yeah, at my house, that's how shit goes because that's what turns me on. That's fine. Why you gotta fucking make all of society into that? You know, like quit forcing it on us. We don't need to do that just because you like it. You know, you explore that shit on your own. That seems more fair. I feel like a lot of 90s cartoons would be deemed inappropriate for children today. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I remember Cow and Chicken, you know? I used to watch Cow and Chicken. That was a fucked up show. Pretty much always, like, copious amounts of ass on that show. The Red Devil guy pretty much was he never wore any pants. He'd walk around on his butt cheeks. There was, like, transgender jokes. There was all kinds of fucked up shit in there. It was a fucking crazy show, man. Yeah, man, I don't know. Robot Chicken. No, Robot Chicken, that's not a kid's show. But Cow and Chicken, that was a fucking crazy show. Yep. A lot of kids' shows from the 90s. Cow and Chicken is a drug nightmare. I agree. I like it. I like it a lot, but I have to agree, it was definitely a drug nightmare. Well, speaking of Rick and Morty, since everybody here is fucking talking about that shit, let's take a look at a recent video that I was sent. This is about Rick and Morty. This is about the problems with Rick and Morty. This is why Rick and Morty's bad and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the speed a little. I know, people don't always like that, but, you know, he talks really slow. So I'm not going to go crazy with it. We're just going to we'll go 1.25, all right? All right, we're going to do that. We're not going all the way to fucking 2 double speed because I know you guys, I can't take it, can't understand, blah, 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 you're stupid, fine, gotcha. But we're going to fucking 1.25 it so we can get through it at least a little fucking faster, for fuck's sake. There's Renegade Cut, the problem with Rick and Morty. Never heard of this guy, don't know anything about him. Not trying to start no shit, just fucking taking on some ideas. I disagree. Right off the bat, I disagree. I remember, the year was 1992. I was a choir boy. Played Doom. Bam, next day, shot at my class. Shot at my choir, in fact. You know? I mean, like, can you guys even tell I sped it up? Like, come on, he's slow. He talks slow. I'm gonna speed it up a little more. Speed up a little more. 1.5. Oh, okay. Thank God. It's almost like a normal human being talking now. You don't hear it? Oh, you're right. You don't hear it. Fuck. Sorry. Okay, start over. Take 2.
Media does not force us to do things.
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. God damn it! Force me to watch this.
Nobody plays Doom and is transformed from a choir boy to a school shooter.
I was. Day 1, fucking choir boy. Played Doom. Next day, shot up the choir. Dead. It's like fucking instant transformation. I'm just like, wow, I'm really into this whole shooting things.
Media does, however, inform and reinforce our worldview. Here's a quick exercise. Close your eyes and...
Oh, man, exercise? No one said exercise would be involved. I gotta get out of this.
Imagine a French person. If you've never been to France, you probably imagined either a French celebrity, someone you saw either in popular media or news media, like a politician, or you thought of a French caricature from a cartoon.
I did. That's what I thought. I pretty much saw almost exactly that, by the way. And I've been to France. It's so fast I can't even hear it. Oh, my God. You fucking cocksucking motherfucker. All right. I'll slow it down. 1.25 for the fucking slow, slogging brains out there that can't fucking understand words if they're fast. Anyway, so yeah, I've been to France. I've been to Paris. I've been to Nice. But I still thought of this when I thought of a French person. Honestly, I prefer this to the French people I met. The French people are dicks. They're fucking assholes.
People are based more on the media we have consumed about them. This can also be true of, everything else. And that's okay. Media can be our window into 99% of the world with which we do not interact.
Okay.
But if that is true, then what media says, what it communicates, is therefore important and not something to be dismissed as, it's only a TV show. So, what does Rick and Morty communicate? Oh, a lot of things. Ideas about existentialism, the role of science, the role of religion, lots of stuff. It also, perhaps unintentionally, seems to communicate something else. Rick Sanchez is a genius super scientist and mass murderer. He's also the series protagonist, along with his grandson, Morty. This wouldn't be a problem if Rick were framed as someone who is proven wrong or whose cruelty leads him to constant failure. But in nearly every...
That's not how the... Like, what about the reality of our world? What about the reality of the world backs that up? We see cruel, horrible people achieve massive wealth and power all the time, right? Like, that happens. Like, just think about, like, whether you're Democrat, Republican, whatever the fuck you are, you can name tons of people that are on the opposite side from you, that have values that are totally abhorrent to you. And everyone can think of some cutthroat people like Hillary Clinton. She's a crazy bitch. Whether you believe in the Vince Foster shit or whatever the fuck, you know Hillary's a cutthroat bitch. Bitch was on her phone fucking ordering drone strikes. Trump ain't a nice guy. No one thinks Trump's a nice guy. Even the people who like Trump don't think he's fucking a nice guy. So we know that there's that cruel people get ahead in the world, but this TV show is supposed to blow smoke up your ass and fucking lie to you and tell you that, oh, well, cruel, horrible people never get ahead in the world. Well, they do, motherfucker. So what's the point? I don't know. Maybe, I'm jumping down your throat. I'm not trying to jump down your throat. I'm not trying to be an asshole. Let's fucking move on.
Every episode, Rick wins. He saves the day and/or Morty. Narrative framing tells us...
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. There's plenty of episodes where Rick doesn't fucking win. There's an episode where at the end of the fucking episode, Rick literally tries to fucking kill himself because, because he found something that was special to him. He rekindled an old relationship that, made him happy for a little while. And it ended, so he fucking tried to off himself. They don't mean to spoil anything. I mean, Rick is constantly portrayed as being a completely fucking miserable human being, He obviously is not... I mean, he might win in some sense of like, yeah, bitch, I did it. But, like, it's pretty obvious to anyone who's familiar with the show that there's a lot of horrible turmoil and pain inside that character. So, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
With whom the audience is meant to sympathize and the messages the media is communicating or even endorsing. Let's use...
What's this? The media is communicating. Like, there's plenty of shows out there that have protagonists, like, there's shows that have protagonists of every fucking stripe. We have characters who are super good, just upstanding, like Luke Skywalker from fucking Star Wars, upstanding guy. Superman, upstanding guy. A lot of the Marvel characters, really fucking traditional kind of values being pushed, like Captain America and Spider-Man and shit. And then we have like the anti-hero characters who, they're not necessarily goody-goods, but they do the right thing ultimately, and their heart's in the right place, and, all that shit. Or maybe they would be evil but in some context, but in another context they're good. And we have fucking shows that outright sympathize with villains and monsters, like Breaking Bad and fucking Dexter and shit. Like, what's the problem with people being able to be subjected to all these different points of view in media? There's not some monolithic, this is the media, and this is the message that they're delivering to us. No. Rick and Morty represents one little blip on a giant media landscape. And, yeah, maybe taken in isolation, you could say, oh, well, this is a problem because it portrays this way. But it's literally one voice in a fucking choir of disparate voices with different ideas about the way the world works. So I don't understand this fucking thesis.
Emperor Palpatine is framed, both in narrative and in visuals, as the bad guy. He tempts Luke Skywalker, our protagonist, in the same way the devil tempts human beings.
Fine. And that works for Star Wars. Star Wars obviously has that very black and white aesthetic. It's good versus evil, and that's fine for some stories. But so basically, like, you're mad at Rick and Morty because, Rick should be fucking wearing a fucking dark hood and have a horrible scar on his eye and should be fucking, I am cruel and evil. Oh no, my cruelty has blown up in my face again and I failed once more. Drat! Like, you want it to be more of like a generic black and white kind of story. That's not what Rick and Morty is or should be. Like, what the fuck is wrong with presenting like, hey, here's a character who takes, selfish nihilism to its fucking most crazy extreme. Let's see what kind of adventures he has. Let's even relate to him. Because everyone has that fucking nihilistic streak in them. I mean, I know I have more than a fucking streak of it. Not to say that I've taken it as far as Rick does, or I've taken it in the same direction. But, it's obviously a show about nihilism, right? And what's wrong with that? It's one voice. It's one voice saying this. And maybe there's other shows out there that have nihilistic characters. There's definitely nihilistic characters that are portrayed in a very negative light in other fucking shows. I mean, like lots of maniacal villain types are ultimately like, everything's meaningless, so everything is permitted, like there's definitely that character as the villain in plenty of fucking shows and movies and shit. So, but we have one fucking portrayal of that as the good guy and the protagonist, and oh no, it's the end of the fucking world, like this is a problem. Like, how's it a problem? Like, once again, taken in isolation, maybe you could make an argument it's a problem. But as one voice in a robust fucking sea of different ideas and different interpretations and different forms of entertainment, it's not a fucking problem. It's just a breath of fresh air, honestly.
He promises Luke incredible power if only he could give in to the dark side. Luke is tempted, but when he sees what he is becoming, he casts down his lightsaber, admonishes Palpatine, and tells the stand-in for the devil that he has lost. In response, Palpatine opts to murder Luke.
Thanks for describing the plot of Star Wars. I'm not familiar with it, so it's a good thing you filled us in.
The point is that Palpatine is unambiguously framed as wrong, and Luke is unambiguously framed as right.
Wow, it's almost like, hey, here's you're basically saying like, okay, it spoon feeds to you who the good guy and who the bad guy is. Like 90% of shit out there does. Okay, why is that a positive thing? What's wrong with maybe injecting a little nuance and like shades of gray in that every once in a while? Is that really a fucking problem?
Even visually, Palpatine is cloaked in darkness and sits atop a throne.
Right.
See, in Rick and Morty, Rick might perform some of the same misdeeds as Palpatine, but he is framed as right. Not a goody-goody like Luke Skywalker, of course.
I don't feel like Rick is portrayed as right, quote unquote, I don't feel like he's portrayed as right. I feel like he's portrayed as smart. He's smart, therefore a lot of things go his way because he's thought of a lot of angles that other people might not have considered. It doesn't mean he always wins. Doesn't mean there's not setbacks. Doesn't mean there's not times when his morality is challenged or his lack thereof is challenged. Like the episode where he, sacrifices himself to save Morty and then he's about to die and he's like trying to make his peace with God and shit. And then as soon as he figures out a way to save himself, he's like, fuck you, there is no God, It's not as simple as this one-dimensional, he's portrayed, even though he does bad stuff, he's portrayed as right. So the show is saying that what he does is okay. It's just saying that you should be like Rick. I think that, there are certain elements of Rick's personality that, yeah, you can fucking maybe derive some sense of like, yeah, I should be more like that. But it's like, you have to take it in a broader fucking context. Like, no one's watching Rick and Morty like this is the Bible, and I must glean my wisdom from this source and this source alone. It's competing in a fucking media landscape with lots of different morals and messages and ideas and, ideas floating around social media and so on and so forth. So it's one fucking source. And I agree, if someone fucking was like, I'm going to look at Rick as my fucking role model, that person's probably going to end up kind of fucked up. But someone who's like, hey, I identify with Rick's assertiveness. I like how Rick is able to take these feelings that the universe is meaningless and turn them into, having fun and cutting loose or something like that. I think there's good lessons to be learned there. You obviously don't take it to the extreme he does. And the show fucking provides plenty of examples of why you shouldn't do that. First of all, you don't have Rick's plot armor. where, you know, you just can't die because you're the fucking main character of the show, you know? There's plenty of times when, you know, if the show was to be realistic, Rick would be fucking dead. You know? There's plenty of fucking things in the show that tell you not to be like Rick. There's plenty of parts of the show that show you the failings of Rick's philosophy. He's not portrayed as just like, oh, he's this great guy and everyone should just be like Rick.
But as someone who is both intellectually correct and even in his moral debates with Morty, Rick is often framed as morally correct too. More than that, he is framed as cool.
Man, I hate the way that this show fucking occasionally challenges black and white morality, dude. I just hate it. You know, it's like, why can't the show just say, hey, this is good and this is bad? Why you gotta fucking present me with this moral fucking debate and shit that that makes me question things? Like the episode where Morty decides to save Fart, the intergalactic, the being from another dimension, the gaseous being that comes from another dimension that can manipulate matter and energy into whatever configuration he wants to. And in the process of trying to save that one life, Morty ends up creating massive casualties, inadvertently killing tons of different people. And then it turns out that Fart actually has malicious intent towards all life in our universe and wants to eradicate it because he views it as an inherently primitive life form. And then Morty has to kill Fart because, to save all life, making all of the deaths that came before totally meaningless and kind of leading one to the conclusion that maybe Morty shouldn't have fucking valued the life of that being and that maybe, it would have been better if he would have just been callous towards it. But nothing about that situation is necessarily impossible. I mean, you could say it's implausible. We don't really know of any gaseous beings from another dimension who can manipulate matter and energy, whose race wants to wipe out all life in our fucking, galaxy or whatever, universe. We don't know about that anywhere out there, but it could conceivably exist. And every event that took place in that episode could conceivably exist, except for the weird part where they fill the room up with water, even though we know for a fact there was already a hole in it, so that doesn't make sense. But whatever. That's just a nitpick. It could be the fucking case. If you want to take it down to a more realistic level, you could have a situation where, maybe you go out of your way to stop, to free somebody from prison or something. You fucking feel like, oh, this person has been wrongly convicted of a crime, and I'm going to devote my time and energy and devote money and resources and efforts. I'm going to support the Innocence Project and so on and so forth. I'm going to get that person out of prison because I think the evidence against them is shoddy. I don't think they did it. I think that they've been wrongly convicted. I'm going to fucking work hard to set them free. Well, maybe you do that, and you set them free, and they go out and murder fucking 100 people, I mean, we're kind of getting far-fetched with it, but, I mean, those are kind of moral questions that are actually a little bit challenging. And it seems like this guy, this renegade cut, is saying that people shouldn't be challenged in that way, that they should just be spoon-fed the same old fucking good and evil messaging that you get from Star Wars or something like that. Here's the bad guy. He wears black and sits on a scary throne. And here's the good guy. He wears white and smiles and helps people. It's just like, wow, what a simplistic fucking view of the world. Like, how many villains in real life wear all black and sit on a spooky throne? Not fucking many. Usually the villain is not twirling the mustache like fucking Snidely Whiplash, like, whoa, that's not a real fucking villain. A real villain tries to seem virtuous or tries to seem good. Meanwhile, they're doing all this horrible, selfish shit in the background. That's a real fucking villain. And what prepares people for that better? I don't think that people should be looking to fucking Star Wars or Rick and Morty to fucking figure out morality or ethics or whatever you want to call it. But if I had to choose which one they should look at, I would say Rick and Morty over Star Wars any day. I think Rick and Morty presents a lot more realistic of a fucking picture than Star Wars does.
Rick is easily the most popular character in the series. In addition to being cool, he's also cruel. Rick is cruel and intelligent, and several times over the course of the series, these two qualities are conflated, as if cruelty is a sign of intelligence. That is the problem with Rick and Morty, the idea that cruelty and intelligence go hand in hand. The idea that being cruel is a sign of intelligence and that being cruel is somehow right. The idea that being cruel is somehow right can be highly attractive to...
See, I feel like you're trying to apply that black and white Star Wars morality you were just praising a minute ago to a show that just, it doesn't work for. I don't think Rick and Morty is saying... I don't know what points you're talking about where you feel like there's been this conflation of like, well, if you're smart, then you're just automatically a cruel, callous, horrible person. I've not seen that in the fucking show. We have a protagonist who happens to be a fucking total prick, who also happens to be very intelligent within the show's universe. Intelligent enough to build portal guns and, you know, get the best of everyone in every situation. But I don't feel like we've 100% committed to this idea that his cruelty and his intelligence are just byproducts of one another. Now, maybe that is the case, but I don't think there's anything that just demonstrates that as like, hey, the show is saying that there's a causal link here. You know, I think that a lot of what you're getting at might have to do with, once again, the philosophy of nihilism, the idea that everything is ultimately meaningless, and I think that that's the universe we live in. You know, I have not had anyone come to me. I've asked people, hey, you believe you're not a nihilist. You believe that there's meaning in the world. So define, first of all, what meaning is. Just give me. We don't even have to come to a consensus. Just give me your understanding of what meaning is, and then tell me how it exists independent of human beings. Tell me how it's out there. Demonstrate to me that it's out there. I've not had anyone satisfactorily provide me with that. Just the same way that if I ask someone to prove God to me, they can't do that either. You know, it's something that you have to take as an article of faith. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't have any faith. I think we live in a ultimately meaningless universe. I think that the only barometer of meaning is what intelligent beings, like supposedly humanity, come up with. You know, I have things that are meaningful to me on a subjective level, and you do too. Everyone has things that they apply meaning to, but as far as some great, grand, cosmic meaning, I don't think there is any. And I think that the show is saying that someone like Rick, who is keenly aware of how meaningless the reality is because he's seen that, you know, there's literally countless universes upon universes upon universes upon universes that are all just feeding on each other, using each other to combine energy and resources in different ways, and the whole thing just seems to go on and on forever. There's infinite numbers of infinite universes with infinite possibilities, and there's a universe where right now, inexplicably, I get up and put on a sombrero and do the fucking cha-cha, and, you know, it's never explained and no one knows why. There's a universe where a fucking no-shit xenomorph busts through the fucking ceiling and bites my head off right now, you know? That's what infinite universes full of infinite possibilities means. And when you're someone who has a portal gun and can actually see, hey, that is the case, there's an infinite number of infinite universes. Like, how in that fucking context do you really come to any sort of like, oh, well, you know, but this is what's morally good and morally bad? Like, in the context of the universe that Rick and Morty takes place in, which may be more similar to our universe than you might think, I think that his actions make a sort of sense. So what comes across as cruelty might just be indifference because he realizes, hey, you know, yeah, in this universe, I blow this person's head off, but they're still alive in an infinite number of other universes where I instead gave them flowers or a hand job or something, you know?
Cruel people. Sometimes people who are...
How was TJ able to get a pre-recorded video into this live stream? Yeah, just OBS, dude. It's not complicated. A lot of people can do it.
Cruel see their attitude as a
hard.
sign of their intelligence, and if they believe that is true, then they can believe they are right, and that their cruelty is right. Everyone has encountered someone who has cloaked their cruel words and misdeeds as, "Hey, I'm just being honest." Through the text of the series, not the intention, but the text, Rick and Morty can reinforce this attractive idea for some people. Now, one should not have to explain what the thesis is not right after saying what the thesis is, but since fandom defensiveness has run rampant of late, please allow this brief aside.
That's just a meme, dude. That's a meme post. I don't know, maybe someone at some point said that in seriousness, but that at this point is just a fucking meme. So
To firmly state what is
I'm
not
sure you
the
probably know that,
thesis.
Adam.
It's not that Rick and Morty isn't funny. It's not that Rick and Morty is bad. It's not that Rick and Morty can't engage in rated R humor. It's not to condemn literally everyone who watches a television series as toxic.
Okay.
While one could certainly argue that some of the fan base is toxic, the
What fucking fan base doesn't have toxic people in it? You know? Like, every fucking fan base has that.
problem with Rick and Morty is contained within the text of the series. Reaction to the series
gotcha.
may be toxic, but that isn't the origin of the problem. The origin of the problem with Rick and Morty lies within Rick and Morty, within the text of the series. Leveling an accusation against the fandom as a whole is unhelpful. That lets the series off the hook and makes the reason that some in the fandom admire Rick seem inexplicable. It's actually a totally knowable thing with evidence.
I feel like it's okay to admire Rick. I don't feel like you have to fucking condone the sorts of things Rick does to fucking identify with Rick as a character. Just like, you know, I thought fucking Walter White was a cool character, but it doesn't mean I'm going to go fucking start a goddamn meth lab. You know? I admire Rick as a character. It doesn't mean I'm just going to wantonly murder because, well, it's meaningless anyway. You know? No one has the plot armor that Rick has. Like, if you really go out and do the things that Rick does, you don't just get away with it because you can hop to another dimension. You go to fucking prison, you know? Bad things happen to you. You suffer repercussions. You suffer reprisal. Someone comes along, hey, you know, I murdered your whole family because whatever, it's meaningless anyway. They come back and shoot you in the fucking head. You know, there's real consequences for the shit you do. It doesn't matter whether you fucking you believe in objective morality or subjective morality or you know morality or what the fuck ever you believe. You can still identify, hey, there's actual consequences for my fucking actions. That's most people are on that more practical level. Whatever they think of morals or ethics, they can understand from a pragmatic standpoint. You know, you fuck people over, eventually they're gonna fuck you back, and that keeps people a little bit in line. So yeah, I mean, but you can admire Rick. You could be like, wow, that's so cool. You can live vicariously through this character who just has the ability to do whatever he wants and just let his asshole nature run free. Like, I don't believe for a second there's not an asshole in Renegade Cut. I mean, there's an asshole in all of us. I'm not talking about our physical asshole that we shit out of. I'm talking about the inner asshole. I'm talking about the fucking part of you that when you're standing in a line behind an annoying person, you just want to bludgeon them to death with a fucking hammer, you know? Rick can just do that. He can do that because he's basically a god in his own little universe. And that's kind of a cool little catharsis. That doesn't mean you fucking emulate that because you know that you don't have the abilities Rick has. You know, I mean, like, it's easy for him. He's got all kinds of crazy, wacky, magical, scientific shit. You don't have that.
Evidence littered throughout the series. It's not inexplicable. Now, you may be thinking, I watch Rick and Morty, and I don't think Rick is right or cool. Yeah, that's good. That's good for you. But your experiences are not universal. They are anecdotal. And learning the outlook...
Okay, well, so is what you're saying here. I mean, anything can be misinterpreted. It's like Marilyn Manson was on Bill O'Reilly's show, and he was like, you know, maybe some kids interpret your music a different way, and they think about it this way. Maybe you have pure intentions, but... You know, what about the confused kid who doesn't interpret it right? It's like, and Manson immediately shot back that it's like, well, anything can be misinterpreted. You know, you could interpret Romeo and Juliet as endorsing suicidal behavior. I mean, what about all the fucking fucked up morality in the Bible? That's a book that people literally say this is the truth of the universe, and they're shitting there like, here's how you treat your slaves. You know, here's, oh, you raped somebody? Better marry her. You know, the Bible's full of fucked up shit, and it's not just a TV show. It's a book people are genuinely looking to as like, this is inspirational morality, and this is how you should live your fucking life. That's told to them. And there's some fucked up shit in there. Just as fucked up as anything you'd ever see in Rick and Morty. It's in the fucking Bible. So how can we have this conversation about, well, some people might interpret it like this? Yeah, some people might. Some people might people have blamed Catcher in the Rye for assassinations and shit. I mean, there's all kinds of strange pathologies out there that might watch this thing or read that thing or listen to that thing, and then they go out and fucking kill somebody. Like Charles Manson hears Helter Skelter, and he's like, oh, I see, start the race war. I get it. Like, it's not fucking the Beatles' fault that Charles Manson's a fucking psycho. It's not Rick and Morty's fault if someone out there is like, I'm like Rick. I'm going to go kill some people for fucking fun because I'm like the Rickster. And then they fucking end up dead on the fucking street or rotting in a fucking jail cell because they decided I'm like Rick, yo. Which, by the way, how many times has that happened? Oh yeah, 0. It's literally happened never. So the person you're talking about that's interpreting the show this way is entirely fucking hypothetical at this point. But even if they did emerge, even if there was some dumbass out there who was like, I'm going to be like Rick and fucking like embrace just like the universe is meaningless, so I do whatever the fuck I want. Even if there was that person out there in the world, like, it's not the show's fault. You know? You can't blame the fucking show because it's clearly not intended to be someone's fucking source of morality. It's meant to be one perspective amidst a fucking ocean of different perspectives that you can weigh it out against. And by the way, I know you said you don't like it when people say, hey, it's just a TV show, but hey, it's just a TV show. And it's not the only TV show. It's one among many fucking TV shows.
Of one person tells us nothing of a pattern and little about what is being communicated by the piece of media. Any protestations of, well, we're not supposed to agree with Rick, are invalidated by the framing of Rick.
Oh, are they?
He is the funniest, coolest character in the series, and more importantly, he is almost always proven right by the end of the episode. That's the point. Is not an argument if the point is continuously obscured by the very text of the series.
Sorry, so Rick being the coolest and funniest character, that's fucking subjective. That's completely subjective. There's plenty of people out there who fucking probably think Morty's the funniest character. There's plenty of people out there who think Jerry's the funniest character. Oh man, him and his fucking dim-witted hijinks. Is Rick the coolest? I mean, once again, it's subjective. I don't think there's too many people who are like, Morty's cool or whatever the fuck. I've heard some people say that Beth is cool because she's kind of a psycho, you know? But I think you're putting the cart before the horse on this one. I think people think Rick is cool because aloof people have always been cool. Like, if Rick was presented the way you want him to be presented, where it's like, oh, like it's because of the stuff Rick does. It's because of his unrestrained id and not giving a fuck that people look at it and like, man, that's fucking awesome. The show is not selling us on the idea that a person like that is awesome. We already associate those character traits with awesome. The rebel without a cause has always been the archetype for fucking cool, dude. Think about every cool character in fucking history, and usually they have some form of not giving a fuck. They're not really concerned with what other people around them think and society's rules and all that shit. That tends to be the kind of characters that people identify as cool. Because it turns out that a conformist who follows all the rules and just does the right thing, you might think like, oh, well, what a good example for people or whatever. But you're never going to think, man, he's cool. He's so cool. Because that's not what people find cool. Never has been.
These are a lot of ideas and words and literary jargon. So let's go through them in more detail, one by one. Part 1, the text of the show.
Okay.
In literary criticism, the text, or main text, is information content of a particular piece of writing. The text of a work...
Oh, man, we got to really be subjected to this fucking 101 bullshit again. Like, can't you just proceed to the fucking point? All right, whatever. Maybe some people need it. Okay.
is the arrangement of words and events. This has come to be used as shorthand and jargon in media criticism in general, including film and television. In more layman's terms, the text of Rick and Morty is, in essence, what happens within the series, what is inarguably occurring in the events of the series. In the pilot, Rick takes Morty on an adventure. It can't be argued that this did not happen in the show. It's right there in the text of the series. Remember that. If Justin Roiland, Dan...
I mean, really, with a show like Rick and Morty, you could pretty much argue anything did or didn't happen. So, I mean, really, in any show, you could do that. You could always say, like, well, turns out it was all a dream. So you could easily say that. You could easily fucking invalidate anything. But yeah, I agree. Whatever. Yeah, in the fucking... What the show showed us was Rick and Morty going on their fucking adventure. So yeah, that's the text. And then there's the fucking subtext or the fucking, you know, whatever you want to fucking call it.
And other people who work on the show were to claim that even though we
most
didn't
people
see it
understand
happen,
this shit.
There was, say, an underground factory of super intelligent graboids from the movie Tremors living beneath that planet. That would
I'm
not
getting really fucking bored, dude. Get to the point of this.
be the
Like, I understand the fucking concept. There's things that are shown explicitly and there's things that are not shown explicitly, but that you could infer or, you know, whatever. I get it. Text, subtext, great. Rock on, move on.
text of the pilot episode.
What's the point?
Instead, it would be paratext,
Paratext,
which is other materials
cool.
applied by the author, often material that is never actually published, but merely fleshed out by the author's own interpretation
So, like,
of events.
things that are just in the
The
author's
most obvious
head.
example
Gotcha.
is that in the Harry Potter books, Dumbledore is the headmaster of Hogwarts, a wizarding school. That is the text. But the fact that Dumbledore is gay is never mentioned in the books.
Okay.
Author J.K. Rowling merely said so well after the fact, which means that Dumbledore's sexuality is paratext and not text.
Paratext.
So
Gotcha.
what is the text of Rick and Morty? And how does the text of the show, meaning the unambiguous events that we can all see, frame Rick Sanchez as right?
Okay.
How does the series continuously show Rick to be correct and communicate this to the audience?
Okay.
Well, let's do a Rick-by-Rick examination of nearly every episode.
Oh,
in
God.
Season 1, Episode 1, Rick outsmarts Interstellar TSA and his family. Early in the episode, Rick makes the series' first reference.
Oh my God, I'm not listening to you recap every fucking episode of the show, dude. I think I've laid the groundwork for why this guy's wrong. Does anyone really want me to proceed with this? Let's see what the fucking chat feels. Should I keep going with this shit, or do you feel like it's been addressed? I'll leave it up to you guys. We can keep going with this, or we could fucking we can move on to something else. So he's just describing how canon and non-canon works. I don't think it's quite canon and non-canon. I think because he's talking about authorial shit. Like, you know, if the author writes about a character, maybe the facts about the character that are just in the author's mind are not, or would be quote-unquote paratext. Like, you know, if, you know, you're writing Rick and Morty, let's say Justin Roiland has it in his head, like, yeah, and also... you know, Rick has a fucking 17-inch dick, you know? He's never explicitly said Rick has a 17-inch dick. We've never seen Rick's dick, so that's paratext. Move on. No, move on. All right, so you guys agree that this has been addressed. You know, maybe he's going to make some other points in the future of this, but I feel like from what he laid out in the first 8 minutes and 11 seconds of this video, I feel like I've refuted it pretty fucking soundly. Obviously, some people out there might disagree, and it seems like a lot of people out there do agree with this video, and that's great, wonderful, good for them. Not trying to fucking say they're idiots or anything, but I don't agree. I just don't. I think that it's a weird way to look at things. I'm going to go ahead and take a little quick break. I will be back. Maybe I should just take a 30-minute break while you guys all go watch fucking Rick and Morty. Anyway, I'm going to take a small break. I'm going to go smoke a cigarette, and I will return with more Abandon Hope goodness. And just to keep you from leaving, I'll just give you a brief little preview of what we're going to be looking at when I get back. This is a story called Instagram Influencer 22 Claims Learning About World War II Would Hit Millennials' Mental Health. So stay tuned for that. I'll be back. All right. I'm back. Sorry to say. All right. So let's get right to it, I guess. Instagram influencer 22 claims learning about World War II would hit millennials' mental health. God damn it. Freddie Bentley is a British reality television celebrity. Yeah. Who is mainly known for his appearance on the reality game show The Circle and for his Instagram feed. He has recently come under fire online after appearing on the TV show Good Morning Britain and arguing an unpopular opinion. In a piece on GMB, Bentley states that children should not have to learn about World War II. In his opinion, too much time is spent on the subject. He is concerned that the emphasis on the destruction and killing of war is too much for young minds. I don't want anyone to think I'm being disrespectful, the 22-year-old celebrity said. He added, I remember learning as a child thinking, oh my God, it's so intense. Yeah, it's the entire world at war, so it should be, right? Should be kind of intense, I think. You know, I don't know. I mean, there's that famous quote, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Then again, I've always kind of made fun of that quote, saying that those who do know history are doomed to watch the idiots around them repeat it. But at least then you can kind of laugh, like, haha, we're fucking making the same mistakes again. Gotta love humanity, right? So I don't know. Let's see. People on Twitter, of course, did think he was being extremely disrespectful. Many pointed out the number of young men who were killed fighting in that war, so people like Bentley could have the freedom to become whatever they wanted. Others pointed out that learning about war was necessary in order to prevent another one in the future. Well, I don't know. We here in America, we learn a lot about World War II and all these wars that we've had as well. And it seems like it hasn't dissuaded us much. Doesn't seem like we've really done a great job of avoiding conflicts, considering we're still in Iraq. We're still in Afghanistan after fucking, 19 years, 18 years, something like that? George Carlin pointed out in a special in the 80s that we've basically been at war once every 20 years if you average it out, and probably the number's gone up since then, depending on what you count as a fucking war. So it doesn't seem like, learning about World War II has really stopped us. But then again, the way we learn about World War II is basically like, all right, so there was this evil dude named Hitler, and he was fucking shit up, so we went over there and we kicked his fucking ass, eh? America, bitch! I don't know. Many on Twitter pointed out Bentley's age and how he seems to fit the stereotype of millennial entitlement. Bentley suggested that schools should avoid potentially furthering any mental health issues children may face by forcing them to confront the realities of war at a young age. He recommended spending less time teaching the history of wars and more time explaining Brexit or helping children learn personal finance. I mean, I think that, it makes sense to teach kids personal finance. I certainly wish that when I was in school, I'd learned things like, here's what an interest rate is, Here's how to be responsible with a credit card. Maybe that would be useful curriculum, but I don't think you have to, all right, let's get rid of all the World War II stuff so we could teach you about more practical matters like finance. I kind of think World War II might be important. I kind of think that maybe it's like relevant to learn about that one time. Well, actually, the second time that the entire world was thrown into war and like millions upon millions of people died and shit, might be something, that you should learn about, especially when it comes to stuff like the rise of the Nazis. I mean, like, there's a reason, like, people make fun of the Godwin's Law thing, but there's a reason that every time, someone starts to act a little bit like a fucking fascist prick in this country, we compare them to the Nazis. And I know that this is Britain, but it's basically the same fucking country. Basically America Junior at this point. And I know we fucking came off of you and all that, but whatever. You're America Junior. Just accept it. Let's keep reading. Most online commentators seem to agree that schools could teach additional subjects, but rejected his suggestion that these new subjects come at the expense of World War II. That's my point, too. Bentley's comments occurred during a segment on Good Morning Britain, in which he debated the question of whether students should be taught about World War II. The segment followed an episode of the British version of The Apprentice television show. In the episode, one of the teams had difficulty with an assigned task because none of them were familiar with when World War II began. Many people took to social media after the episode to decry the state of the British education system. I mean, people get so preoccupied with this year shit. Like, I think as long as you know World War II took place around about the 30s and 40s, you're all right. I mean, you don't really need to know the specific date that it happened as long as you have a general idea about the facts of the case. Anyway, because not everyone's good with dates. I'm not good with dates. The other day I was doing a show and I didn't even remember how old I was. 34, by the way. People were like, oh, TJ was so drunk he couldn't even remember his age. It's like, no, that's normal. I don't have to be drunk to struggle to remember. Am I 33? Am I 34? Am I 35? I don't know. So I can't even remember fucking my own age, let alone what year exactly World War II kicked off. But, I think people should learn the basics of, like, here's Hitler. Here's how Hitler came to power. Here's what he did with that power. Here's how much the world had to go through to stop him. If you can, I think teaching those basic things is probably a good idea, so that, when stuff like that starts to happen and there's parallels, we can be like, hey, it seems things are getting a little Hitler-y again. Maybe we ought to back off of this. Maybe we ought to change course a little bit because I don't think we want to go through that whole Hitler thing again. It seems reasonable to me. And I know a lot of people, like I said, they get frustrated with the whole Godwin's Law. I think there's a pretty strong impetus for us to be hyper-vigilant about let's not go down that Nazi path again. I think it's probably a good thing that people are ultra-sensitive about not being like the Nazis. There's a good reason why we should work hard to avoid that. And I think if you stop teaching that to people, there's less of an impetus to be like, it's almost like, hey, we didn't bother teaching about World War II, so when someone says, hey, this is like the Nazis, people are like, so what? What's wrong with that? Bentley came to fame as a contestant on a reality game show, The Circle. Contestants on that show lived each in their own apartment. Their only contact with the other contestants and with the outside world was through a specially made social network app known as The Circle. I don't care. I'm not reading an advertisement for the fucking Circle. Anyway, this is a stupid idea. This is a stupid guy. James Dean to star in movie 6 decades after death thanks to CGI. I mean, is it really, can you really say James Dean is starring in it? Isn't it just the case that, like, they're an approximation of James Dean is going to star in the movie? Whatever. James Dean died 64 years ago, but he's been cast in a brand new movie thanks to the magic of CGI. The original Rebel Without a Cause will star in a Vietnam-era action drama projected to be released next year. The movie, entitled Finding Jack, between Vietnam and the name Jack, I'm kind of starting to get fucking Ben Stiller Simple Jack vibes from this, So that's not good. Is an adaptation of the 2015 novel of the same name by Gareth Crocker, which details the actual existence and abandonment of over 10,000 canine units at the end of the Vietnam War. Wow, sounds like a real fucking joyful movie, dude. Sounds like a real positive story. According to a press release sent to CBS News, a CGI recreation of Dean will portray the secondary lead character Rogan. If you're going to fucking go through the trouble of recreating James Dean digitally, at least make him the star, right? Why are you going to make him some fucking secondary character? He's the sidekick? Fuck that. He's James Dean. He should be the fucking main guy. Not the porn star, the actual James Dean, you fucking retard. While some may question why living actors were snubbed for the role, co-director Anton Ernst said the team searched high and low for someone to play the part, which has some extreme complex character arcs. After months of research, we decided on James Dean. So basically, no, that's not what actually happened. What actually happened is like, fuck, how can we convince people to see this movie? How can we make this movie stand out? I know. We'll recreate James Dean with CGI so that people will watch the movie just to see that, and hopefully we can suck them into the actual story on the way there. That's what's going on. I think this is cool. I'm all for it, I mean, as long as it doesn't look fucking totally ridiculous, I think we could get with it. I can get with it anyway. Why not? Bring back fucking Bruce Lee. Bring back all the fucking great dead actors, I want to see a movie where fucking Clark Gable fights Bruce Lee. Let's see it. Why not? If we can do it, why not? Why shouldn't we do it, Okay. So let's watch a fucking absolutely terrible video from TYT Investigates. This is a movie review of Joker. This is called Why This Joker is a Real Loser. Loser. He's a loser. All right.
Arthur, does it help to have someone to talk to?
Joker has a problem with black women.
By the way, hey, doesn't TYT have like money and shit? Like, why is this guy talking into such a shitty mic? Why does the audio sound so fucking terrible?
The black woman he wants, the black woman who has the nerve to tell a strange man to leave her son alone. And not one, but two black women who appear to be social workers or doctors, but either way, just don't get it.
This is the last time.
I don't remember another. I remember one black woman who's a social worker who just doesn't get it. I don't remember another. Maybe my memory's blanking on it.
We'll be meeting.
You don't listen, do you?
And don't forget the teenagers, definitely not Caucasian, who assault Joaquin Phoenix's character, Arthur Fleck, for no reason. You see,
never happens in real life, by the way. There's never any senseless violence across racial lines. That's just total contrivance of Joker, the movie. Doesn't happen in the real world at all, and therefore should not be depicted on film.
Arthur is a victim. He's the straight white guy telling women to smile more, or better yet, to laugh at his jokes. You have to wonder whether the movie is satirizing white dude victims all over the country, the incels who can't get anyone to love them. Except that Joker is also the hero of a working class uprising, Occupy Gotham, in clown masks, I guess. and even says explicitly at one point that he's not political. But Joker the movie is very political, and that's what makes it a real mess, literally. In fact, the first thing you
Is it literally a mess? I don't think it's literally a mess. Unless you're talking about, like, the state of the city.
learn is there's a garbage strike in Gotham City.
I guess he is.
The city is literally filthy because sanitation workers have had the nerve to organize to fight for their own self-improvement.
I don't feel like there was, like, a tremendous amount of, like, judgment cast the way of the garbage workers in the movie. I think it was just an excuse to make the city filthy and add to the atmosphere of, like, corruption and shit. I mean, the movie, if anything, seems to take the side of the working class and the people who've been left behind. And but you just dismissed it as like, well, that's white guy problems. Because, you know, if a white person is suffering or is dealing with mental illness or any of that stuff. Oh, by the way, I should probably full screen this fucking thing. If a white person is suffering or dealing with mental illness or something, you can just dismiss it as like, well, that's just white shit. You know, white people don't have no real problems. White people don't have any real mental illness. There's no way that we could fucking possibly look upon the pain of a white person with any sort of empathy because, you know, empathy should be 100% reserved just for like other colors of people, you know. Okay, so you're living in poverty and you suffer from severe mental illness and you were abused as a child. And, you know, you have delusions of grandeur and these ridiculous fantasies that you escape into to escape your horrible existence. That's all well and good. But what color is your fucking skin? Because I need to know how to feel about you. Because if you're a black guy or an Asian guy or a Latino guy or any of those other guys, then that's horrible what the system's done to you, and I feel so bad for you. But if you're a white guy, fuck you, buddy. Fuck you. You know? I'm sorry, but I just can't empathize with no white dude. You got all the power in the world, Arthur Fleck. You know? I mean, sure, the facts of your life might not be any different than the facts that I would empathize with if it was any other color person, but since you're white, fuck you. Of course. Totally not a racist sentiment at all.
Director Todd Phillips is being praised for making a realistic movie, and even said he wanted to make a real movie disguised as a comic book movie. But any real person inspired to real violence by this real loser is themselves a real loser who can't.
Well, yeah, anyone who watches a movie and is inspired to violence by it is a fucking loser. I mean, yeah, I think we agree on that, but when does that even happen? I know that the media made a big deal about how this movie was going to start all this violence and horribleness, but it didn't. You know what it has inspired is a lot of people protesting in places like Chile. You know, so a bunch of people in Chile saw the plight of this character and decided to, wear his visage during their protest movement. They weren't white. They didn't look at him and say, oh, well, this is a white guy, so we don't empathize with his plight at all. They looked at him and said, here's a fucking character that's been rejected by society and fought back. So maybe we could do the same thing. And they painted themselves up in Joker makeup and they protested the unfair fucking conditions of their country. So what the fuck are you talking about?
Can't tell that the movie itself doesn't know what the hell Arthur Fleck is, other than the movie's supreme confidence that he, this poor white male victim, has something important to say about modern times. And by the way, we literally see the real movie.
I don't know that Arthur Fleck is the one who has something important to say about times. I think he's the subject of the movie. I don't think that it's like watching Taxi Driver, you know? You're not supposed to watch it and be like, oh, Travis Bickle's got the answers. You know, he's the subject. It's like, hey, look at what the conditions of society made this person into, right? It's not like you're supposed to be like, oh, they're righteous and good. The movie, the Joker has never been presented as a fucking hero. He's always been presented as a villain. This movie's no exception to that. Just because we see things from his perspective doesn't mean like he's the hero of the film. And the movie is like, if you believe that, then the literal message of the movie is you should dress up in clown makeup and go kill people because why the fuck not, you know? Society's bad, so time to put on the grease paint and fucking off some motherfuckers. Like, what?
Modern times in one scene. That's how on the red nose this movie is. There's a very
That sounds like your fucking basic bitch interpretation of the movie, honestly. Don't take your simple-minded take and say that's what the movie is. No, that's your simple-minded fucking pea-brain take is what that is. That's all that is.
simple cure for whatever made-up mental and emotional problems Arthur Fleck has, and it's caring
Made up? What? Wait. The mental illnesses he suffers from in the movie are just made-up shit? Well, I mean, in the sense that he's a made-up character, sure. But he was never shown to have any problems that don't exist in real life. Are there people who really have, like, the delusions of grandeur that Arthur Fleck has? Yes. Are there people who feel the extreme isolation that he feels? Yes. Are there people who are unable to fucking adjust emotionally to the world around them and process things in a healthy manner? Of course there are. So what are you talking about?
about other people in some way other than wanting their laughter, adoration, or other narcissistic gratification. And it's not just Joker who's angry all these black people won't laugh at his unfunny comedy.
There was no, what are you talking about? There was no racial component to this. Like, why are you just bypassing all of the white people that he had a problem with? In fact, I don't think he kills a single person of color in this movie. He kills some fucking rich Wall Street cocksuckers in the train. Sorry, spoilers, by the way. He kills some rich Wall Street cocksuckers in a train who I remember all being white. He kills a dude from his work that was a prick to him who was white. He kills the talk show host who was white. His actions indirectly lead to the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, who are white. So it seems like, I don't remember there being this angle that you read into the film of like, he hates black people. That's what the Joker's about. He just was tired of all these damn blacks. So that's why he put on the face paint and was like, it's time for me to go kill some blackies now. It's not the movie. You and I saw a different fucking film, sir.
Director Phillips said he made Joker because he can't make hilarious comedies like The Hangover anymore because woke culture doesn't like it when he punches down. So
I don't remember The Hangover being like much of a punch down movie. I mean, I don't even remember it being an overtly kind of political movie. I remember it being like, it was like three guys who went on a crazy Vegas bender and then were trying to put the pieces back together the next day and find their friend. And they got in all kinds, they pieced back together the strange misadventure they'd had the night before. I don't remember it being, I don't remember, like, who did it punch down at? I don't know. I don't remember the film perfectly. I don't have perfect recall. I don't think I've seen it since it came out. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but I don't really remember it being a super, like, oh, this movie's about fucking fuck them gays or whatever, you know? I don't remember that.
Instead of punching up for once, he decided to make a quote-unquote real movie disguised as a comic book movie, but actually realistic, like capital A art. But here's the problem with Joker's realism. Real white dudes don't have Arthur's BS reasons to resent black women. Going off your meds doesn't really make you suddenly capable of carrying out complicated plans, committing murder, and literally getting away with murder.
I mean, sometimes it does. And by the way, how'd he get away with it? The movie ends with him in fucking jail or Arkham or something. So I don't see how he didn't get away with it. I mean, but this is the Joker we're talking about. I mean, like, you realize this is the origin story of a villain, right? Like, you're not supposed to be like, wow, what a great guy. It's supposed to be like, hey, let's take a dark and unflinching look at the origin story of one of the most notorious villains in all of fucking comic books and literature and media. I mean, I don't fucking understand. This interpretation is just so weird. Like, I don't know how you got this from this movie at all. Like, it's not about race shit.
Mentally ill people don't really do this more than other people do. And in fact,
come on. I mean, there's certain forms of mental illness. Like, if there's a fucking guy who fucking dresses up in clown makeup and starts murdering people, I think it's pretty safe to say that person is probably not the portrait of fucking sanity, dude. And by the way, this is the Joker we're talking about. A character who is notoriously insane. That's the defining characteristic of the fucking Joker, is that he's crazy. Come on.
No one does this. In 3 decades of urban decay in America, at no point did a lone killer inspire a movement of widespread working class violent uprising.
Yeah, it's a movie. I mean, like, what? Yeah, it didn't really happen. Oh, the Joker's not a true story. What? You telling me the Joker's not real? Huh? I thought, huh? I thought this was based on actual historical events that happened.
Real grown-ups don't really get physically assaulted without provocation at the rate Arthur Fleck does, suffering 2 terrible traumatic beatings in the space of only a few days.
Yeah, that's that's supposed to show the fucking decay of the city. And yeah, I think if you went to a high crime city and you were a little weak-looking dude who was dressed in clown makeup, I'm willing to bet that you're probably gonna get your ass kicked here and there. Because when you're talking about a place where like social cohesion and the social order have completely broken down and there's no faith in the fucking system at all anymore, then yeah, the weak are going to be preyed upon. That's kind of like the essence of what criminality is, right?
Real teenagers generally don't randomly attack grown white men on busy streets in broad daylight. Real people may suffer some of the tragedies that befall Arthur Fleck, but not all of them. This is
Right. It's supposed to be about the confluence of forces that turn this fucking meek individual into the Joker. It's like, what was the movie supposed to do? How could the origin story of the Joker possibly satisfy you? Like, what could this movie possibly have done to meet with your approval? Like, he's just supposed to go outside, he goes out into the streets and no one fucks with him. And he rides the subway train without incident. And he looks into his past and he finds that it's totally normal and legit. And then he puts on some face paint and kills a bunch of people because he's just crazy. Like, what? Yeah, you have to show bad things happening to him to prompt him into becoming the fucking Joker. Right?
not the real world, and it's not realistic. In fact, the relentlessly dark, hopeless, filthy, uncaring world in which Joker is justified for leading this politically scrambled, incoherent movement is only real in bad comic books.
Ugh. Hey, there's this thing called social commentary, and occasionally it uses elements like hyperbole, which is when you exaggerate certain things in order to make a point, right? So, yeah, this is a comic book movie. It is based on comic books. I don't know why you feel the need to look down your fucking nose at an entire fucking medium of human expression, but yeah, it's based on a comic book. I don't think it should flinch away from that or be like insulted by you saying this is like something out of a comic book. No shit, Sherlock. Yeah, it's based on a fucking comic book. It's a comic book villain. His name is the Joker. You know? I don't know if you've heard of him. He was famously portrayed by Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger and Cesar Romero, and infamously portrayed by Jared Leto. And he originally was a villain in a comic book you might have heard of called Batman. So that's what that movie's about. I don't know, man. That's just fucking 7 flavors of dumb. I don't know what to even fucking say beyond that. Ahoy. Gross. I guess that was weird. So this guy doesn't know how commentary on society works, do he? No, I guess not. I don't know who that dude was. I hope I never do know, because that was painfully dumb. Gotham has to get the point of total lawlessness. This guy knows things don't go well for Gotham, right? Right. I mean, like, the whole point is this is the city that spawns a masked, that becomes so out of control that a masked vigilante starts patrolling the streets dressed as a fucking bat, beating the shit out of criminals to try to restore some fucking social order. So that's what Gotham's is. It's, I mean, like, come on. We understand that there's exaggeration and hyperbole in it, We understand that the Joker is not a fucking true story. And, this dude brought all this weird racial shit into it. I don't know. There was nothing like that in the movie. I mean, there was black characters, but there was never like a fucking, he murders all the black people because he hates black people, and he's mad because black people don't understand him or whatever. There was none of that. I mean, that was incidental. He's just seeing a pattern because he wants to see it. Anyway, so this next thing is going to be a response to a dude named Benjamin Dixon, who I guess does some kind of podcast or show on YouTube called The Benjamin Dixon Show. And I guess he addressed some stuff that we got into on Twitter on here, so we're going to take a look at that.
Politics. I don't know if I want to have this fight, only because there's so many fights to fight. But I think it's necessary.
So many
right?
fights, so little time. Don't know if I wanna do it again.
Yesterday, I tweeted out the following. I said, progressive commentators still telling you that identity politics don't matter are going to help you lose this election. And this concludes my TED Talk. The Amazing Atheist, I don't know if you're from, I don't even know if he still does work. I don't follow his.
I don't even know if he still does work. No, this YouTube thing is like an excuse for me not to work. So as long as I can get away with not working, I'm going to do this. No, actually, it is a lot of work sometimes. But, I know people don't believe that. So
his channel. I used to like him back in early 2000s.
I used to like him back in the day. But now he's just a retard.
2008.
Stop singing.
Around
I'm
there.
not talented.
I used to really like his work because, as a skeptic, as a Christian skeptic, I'd always loved it.
Christian skeptic. Okay. So here's a square peg. Oh, here's the square peg. Here's the round hole. Let's see. Doesn't fit. You can't be a Christian skeptic. Doesn't make sense. To be a Christian, you have to believe an all-powerful carpenter was nailed to some wood to repent from the sins of the first two people to ever exist who ate some bad fruit from a magic tree because the talking snake told them to. So, it's really hard to reconcile that with, I am a skeptic.
Hearing rational arguments against Christianity. I just did.
Cool. Good stuff.
Don't ask me why. Even though I've still stayed a Christian, I used to love his work because for a while there, had some really
very
good arguments.
open-minded.
Then he just kind of fell off.
Yep.
But anyway, this was his reply.
Fell off.
He said, identity politics are toxically bad for the left, as polling data shows that the majority of people from all walks of life detest political correctness. No one wants a let's all walk on eggshells candidate.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely true. I agree with that person. I agree with that guy who he just read the tweet of, who happens to be me. I think he's right. I'm taking his side just for the record.
First and foremost, this is a disingenuous argument.
No, it's not.
Because he seamlessly conflates identity politics with political correctness.
And that's true. I mean, look, most of political correctness is built on identity politics. Most political correctness is, don't say that about gay people. Why? Because you'll hurt the gay people's feelings. Don't say this about black people. Why? Because you'll hurt the black people's feelings. Don't say this about this group or that group. It's totally tied together. I mean, I understand that it's not 100% overlap. It's not exactly the same thing. But, I mean, really, if you try to figure out what areas of political correctness are not rooted in identity politics, you're going to have a hell of a time telling me what that is. Absolutely, I conflate them. I think it's a completely fair conflation. And if you're going to argue otherwise, then point to me an area of something being politically correct that isn't tethered to some group's identity and to some group's identity about themselves.
And I have to preface this with this. I can understand why it would be uncomfortable for white people in this country to have to take a moment to take into consideration.
Well, if you'd actually looked at the study I linked you to, it wasn't about white people feeling uncomfortable. It was about how people of literally every race, when asked, hey, is political correctness a problem in this country? The majority of every single racial group said yes. Majority of black people, yes. The majority of white people, yes. Asian people, yes. Latino people, yes. Because it turns out that people, regardless of their skin color, don't want to fucking walk on eggshells all the time. They don't want to constantly have to worry about who they might offend. Sometimes people just want to say shit. You know? They just want to be able to state an opinion without it necessarily being interpreted as, hey, you obviously hate this group or that group. You know? And hey, do people say ignorant shit? Do people say shit that might be rooted in bigotry and bias? Yeah, that happens. Of course that happens. But I think what people are saying when they talk about political correctness is, or identity politics, and I'll continue to conflate them because I continue to think they should be conflated. When people talk about that stuff, they want it to be like, hey, okay, you said this thing about this group of people. I happen to be a member of that group. Let me tell you why I think that's wrong. Let me tell you why I think that what you just said is rooted in some really unfair stereotypes. Boom. Here's an explanation. I don't think anyone has a problem with that. And maybe some people do. Maybe some people are just determined to be bigoted, hateful assholes, and that's fine. That's their bag. But I think the majority of people are fucking totally open to discussion on this stuff and totally willing to listen to other points of view and totally willing to fucking have the discussion, to have the argument. But what people aren't willing to do, or what people don't like being done, is just to be bludgeoned over the head with, you can't fucking say that because it hurts my feelings. It's like at some point, can we just take feelings out of it? And can we have a fucking real discussion like reasonable adults in a fucking polite society? You know? It doesn't even necessarily have to be a polite discussion. It can be heated. It can be angry. But don't fucking say, I can't say this. Don't say that, oh, well, and by the way, we'll get a little bit more into it in a minute. Let's hear more what you have to say.
Iteration, the plight of everyone else. America's default position is identity politics for white people. Don't believe me? Okay, I know I play it all the time, but here's the evidence.
But do you understand what the New York Times wants?
Okay, so the premise here is that the default position of America, which, by the way, the second I heard that statement, I'm like, bullshit, because there is no default position of America. We don't have a homogenous culture in this country. We're deeply divided in our politics. We're deeply divided on a lot of social issues in this country. There's not this there's not widespread consensus on much of anything in this country. So this idea that there is this big default position of America that you can look at and point to that's false right out of the gate. But then his evidence for that is he's going to play a Bill O'Reilly clip. Like, Bill O'Reilly speaks for America? I mean, that's a harmful notion. I don't think Bill O'Reilly speaks for America. I think Bill O'Reilly, at the time that he had a Fox TV show, spoke for the 2 or 3 million people that tuned into it. I think it was somewhere around there. And that's fine. Maybe he speaks for those people. I think a lot of people just watched him because it was on at their nursing home, given the fucking extremely advanced age of most Fox News viewers. And I think a lot of people watched Bill O'Reilly, ironically, to just make fun of his ass. I know I did. I'd tune on Bill O'Reilly and listen to what he had to say and be like, what a fucking retard. But I guess Bill O'Reilly speaks for us all. Let's listen to that.
And the far left want to break down the white Christian male power structure of which you're a part, and so am I.
Now, what's hilarious about this, that was Bill O'Reilly.
So that's proof. Bill O'Reilly, the fact that Bill O'Reilly said that is proof that the default position of America is white identity politics. Okay.
O'Reilly speaking to Senator John McCain, who was a presidential candidate at the time, so this wasn't even a big deal. This was on Fox News. Mm-hmm. This didn't even get a separate headline, right? Because it's so common. It's such common knowledge. Everybody knows that America's power structure is that of white Christian men. Now, what's hilarious about this...
It didn't get its own separate headline. Why would it get its own separate headline? I mean, that's part and parcel for the rhetoric you hear on Fox News. Now, if you said that white identity politics was the default position of Fox News, and then you played that Bill O'Reilly clip, I could say, okay, yeah, maybe you're right about that, especially since you could find similar clips from Sean Hannity and whatever the other one is, the squinty face Tucker Carlson. Sure, you could maybe say that. But to say it's a default position of America, I mean, like, that's just taking it a little far for me, man.
Is that people like Kyle Kalinske and TJ, the amazing atheist, they know that there is an identity that they fight against all the time. They fight against the identity politics of Christians, right? And they're fighting on behalf of atheists and agnostics in this country who are on the receiving.
Look, I'm not fighting on anyone's behalf here. Let's not conflate me to representing anyone but myself. I come out here, I say my piece. People can agree, people can disagree. I'm not trying to speak for any motherfucker but my goddamn self. That's all I'm interested in speaking for. And don't get me wrong, if other people want to say, hey, I agree with TJ on this, I'm more than happy to accept that agreement. I'm more than happy to speak to elucidate what they think on that issue, but I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. I'm out here saying my opinion, putting out my point of view, and that's it. Agree, disagree. Maybe you agree with some, disagree with some. But I'm here pointing out my perspective and my perspective alone. I'm not trying to be any sort of identity beyond just I'm me. My identity politics are down to the individual. I represent the interest of the TJ and the TJ alone.
End of that identity politics that are being played against the rest of America who aren't Christian.
Right.
Their entire platforms, secular talk, the amazing atheists, they have built entire platforms out of fighting against that identity that is at the core of America's political structure, Christianity.
Sure. Yeah.
And right on.
Right on.
I absolutely. I love listening to TJ.
Okay.
As a Christian skeptic, like I said, I love listening to it. So it's not that they can't see that identity politics matter and that they themselves have been on the receiving end of a particular identity. They see it.
All right. Look, I see where you're going with this. People pointed this out to me when I was arguing with you on Twitter. It's like, oh, okay. Well, your name is the Amazing Atheist, so you are you're obviously using atheist. You have an identity thing right there. An identity descriptor right there in your fucking name. So obviously you're a hypocrite on this. But let's remember what the point of this is. I mean, look, not engaging in any sort of identity politics at all. I mean, all politics is about identity at the end of the day. It's Democrats versus Republicans. It's corporatist Democrats versus, social Democrats versus, Democratic Socialists versus outright socialists versus fucking communists versus whatever, the anarchists. I mean, there's all kinds of different groups. I mean, all of this shit comes down to some form of identity. I'm with this group. I'm with that group. I believe these things that identify with this pre-packaged set of beliefs, and I believe this thing that, whatever. It's all about that. That's fine. What I'm talking about when I say identity politics is I'm talking about the politics that says, hey, I mean, look, even the politics I favor, which is about classism, which is about, hey, the billionaire class has far too much power and capital in this country. We just saw recently a case where Amazon.com decided to spend $1.5 million to defeat a city councilwoman. $1.5 million on a city council race in Seattle because the person running, I forget her name, was antagonistic towards Amazon. That sort of stuff happening. That's the kind of stuff that gets me riled up, and that's a form of identity politics because we're talking about billionaires and millionaires versus, everyday working class kind of people and the poor people in this country. That's that class struggle stuff. That's a form of identity politics, and that's the kind of politics that me and Kyle get behind. We talk about that stuff all the time. That's very important to us, blah, blah, blah. So it's not like you can say that we reject identity politics. But when you're talking about identity politics, I get the feeling you're talking about something very different. So when I say, hey, I reject identity politics, first of all, when I take on the name The Amazing Atheist, I'm not running for office. I would never run for office. Never going to happen. don't want to represent people, only want to represent myself. That's where I'm at. But when I do talk about politics and I talk about this class struggle stuff, that is a form of identity politics, but it's not what I'm talking about when I'm commenting on your post where you're saying, hey, all these people who are trying to get us away from identity politics, they're you're basically saying a candidate can't win unless they get into the identity politics stuff. And I know you're talking about, obviously, since both Kyle and I are big Bernie Sanders supporters, you're kind of talking about, hey, Bernie Sanders needs to go all in with this identity politics shit, which I think, he pays some lip service to it, but I think we all know that what he's more about is the class struggle stuff, which, once again, is a form of identity politics in and of itself, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. I think you're talking about the identity politics of race, of gender, of sexual orientation, stuff like that. Now, absolutely, those groups of people have their own sets of interests, and they should fight for those things, and I'm not saying that they fucking shouldn't. But there comes a point where it eats everything else around it. There comes a point where we lose sight of the bigger picture because we get too bogged down in these little specific battles. Like, okay, I support the right of a transgender person to use the bathroom which most identifies with their gender identity or whatever. But if it comes down to, do we fight that fight, or do we fight the fight to right some of these economic injustices that are happening in this country? I'm going to go for the economic injustices. I'm going to go for things like universal health care because that benefits everyone except for like a tiny class of billionaires who are going to be fine, who are already rich and already taken care of. What I'm interested in is, hey, people, whether they be black, white, gay, straight, whatever, need health care. So let's try to get them health care. People people of all races and genders and sexual orientations and all that shit need basic shit like healthcare and paid vacation time and decent wages and the ability to form unions and do collective bargaining and to not have their jobs shipped overseas. That helps everyone. And that's why that's the fundamental shit that we should be focused on. And I think that when you hyper-focus in on these issues like trans bathrooms or whatever the fuck, these little identity politics things, or like gentrification or whatever, that, that's important to this voting block, that's fine. But there's things that should be important to all of us that we should address. And that's not to say we can't talk about this other stuff. It's just to say let's not lose track of where our fucking priorities are. And I think the priority has to be we need to do the fundamental things that are going to make this country better for everyone, not pander to this group or that group or the other group. And a lot of times these identity politics are just used as a wedge issue to divide people because, I have conservatives in my family who I've had the universal health care argument with, and I can get them behind universal health care. People who identify as Republicans and Trump supporters, I'm like, hey, here's a case for universal health care. And they're like, you know what? I think that's actually reasonable. That makes sense to me, because you can point to instances in their lives where, hey, look, isn't it horrible that you're being crushed under this medical debt? Isn't it horrible that this happened and, instead of it being taken care of, you were fucking stomped under the fucking boot heel of the fucking establishment? Wasn't it better when the state came in and took care of some of those expenses for you through Medicare or Medicaid or whatever? We just need to expand that. We need to fucking make a system where, if someone gets sick, we help them. And I've been able to make that argument. But it's impossible to go to those same Republicans or conservatives or whatever and say, hey, what we need is reparations for black people. That's not winning any votes. That's not winning any popularity contests. It might be if you're a black person, I can see why, hell yeah. Oh yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. But to literally everyone else in the country, that's like, fuck, I don't want to do that. Why should my tax dollars go to that? Because their ancestors were slaves 1 billion years ago? Fuck it. Fuck that shit. I don't want that. Universal health care is an easy sell. Making a more fair, just, and equitable system for everybody is an easy sell. Righting some injustice injustices that are important to one segment of the population or another, not so easy to sell. And I'm not saying that necessarily makes them bad ideas or wrong ideas or that we shouldn't look into those ideas or whatever, but that's obviously not where the votes are. So I think that when you make the statement that, politicians need to be more into this identity politics shit, what I really hear you saying is, let's embrace a bunch of unpopular shit that only resonates with a small segment of voters, and let's try to get people that way. I don't think that's the way you get them. I think you get them by doing bold, big, populist ideas that are good for everybody in this whole fucking country. I think that's how you do it. Now, maybe that's not what you want to hear. Maybe that's not what you personally like, but, you're a member of a fucking racial minority in this fucking country. Black people make up, like 12% of the population, 13% of the population? I'm not saying that they should just be ignored and that the things they want should just be like, fuck them, whatever. But I don't think we need to hyper-focus on the interests of Black America to the exclusion of everybody else when there are so many things that we could fundamentally do in this country that would be of tremendous benefit to Black people and would also be of tremendous benefit to a lot of other people who find themselves suffering under conditions of poverty or find themselves under crushing medical debt or things of that nature. So I think that's what I'm talking about when I'm rejecting your call for politicians to be more into this identity politics shit. Now, maybe I misinterpreted your statement. Maybe I didn't really understand where you were coming from on this, and I have a totally wrong impression. But that's my interpretation of your comments, and that's my explanation for why I feel the way I do.
They built entire platforms off of it. What they don't want to see is the other two parts of that trifecta, the white Christian men trifecta. They want to see the problem with the Christian side of the identity, but they don't want to acknowledge the white male part of that trifecta of power structure in this country.
All right, well, here's the problem with that. So first of all, when it comes to Christianity, my objection to Christianity is not that it has power, because I don't think Christianity at this point has much power in this country. I'm not saying it doesn't have any power, because clearly it does. But, the average Christian, they're not invited into the corridors of power. If anything, they're just useful idiots whose votes are manipulated by people who fucking pay lip service to Christianity. There's nothing about me being white or male grants me any great power in society. Just because the people who are in power happen to predominantly be white and male, they don't feel any sort of kinship with me. They're not like, hey, you too are white and male. Here, have some stuff. Have some rights and privileges that are denied to others. They don't give a fuck about me. They don't give a fuck about the white Christian male dude who's on the street with a sign that says, "We'll work for food." They don't give a fuck about that guy. They give a fuck about themselves, the furtherance of their own ambitions and power. And really, they have a mentality of total self-interest. And anything else about them is incidental. I don't think that there's any sort of barrier for entry when it comes to this sort of power structure shit. As far as Republicans are concerned, they don't give a fuck if you're black or white or whatever the fuck you are. They only care, do you toe my line? Are you going to help me? Are you going to scratch my back? If you're a black dude who touts a bunch of conservative traditionalist bullshit, they'll embrace you in a heartbeat. In fact, sometimes they'll embrace you with even more enthusiasm because it's like, oh, a black person's on our side. Well, let's fucking gather around them and be like, yeah, thanks, black person. See, we're not racist. We like this black person who believes all the same shit we do. Yay! So it's all about using people. They don't care about fucking race or gender. The only time they really care about that shit is when they can use it to divide people up, when they can use it to turn people who otherwise would realize they have so much self-interest in common. They use it to turn them against each other. It's like, oh, you lost your job, and they know in their heads, like, well, that person lost their job because I voted for fucking, NAFTA. which shipped their job overseas, or because, the factory automated their jobs away. But, oh, well, that's not, I don't want to tell them that because that might be harmful to my position. So I'll blame it on the immigrants. And I'll say, oh, well, the immigrants took your job. And then, oh, yeah, fuck those immigrants. And then the other side can go to the immigrants and be like, hey, look at all these racists over there that hate you. And it's just a way for, both sides to drum up votes against each other. And that's what identity politics kind of devolves into. It just becomes, we're going to pander to this group, we're going to pander to this group. Meanwhile, these two groups of people who have been pitted against each other don't see, hey, we have all of these interests in common. If we actually rationally looked at this and said, hey, we're all getting fucked, and the people on top of the pyramid are basically our slave masters, if they fucking got together and realized that shit and said, hey, we need to fucking fundamentally change things in this country, then something could get done. So I think a lot of times these discussions about race and gender and blah, 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 all these different groups that people feel like they need to strongly identify with, that's just driving people apart. It's just driving people apart, and it's making them blind to the fact that there's so many things that they have in common, so many problems that they have in common, so many problems that they could solve if they ever took off the blinders of, hey, I'm this color and you're this color, you like sucking dick and I don't like sucking dick, whatever the hell the case may be. If they took off those blinders and actually started to empathize with other human beings who are in a similar plight to them, then maybe things would get done. And of course, that's what the people in power in this country dread more than anything. So I honestly think that identity politics, the way you're talking about it, is really nothing more than a fucking a chess maneuver used by the powerful elites to divide and conquer the populace of this fucking country and other countries.
Bottom line, period. End of discussion. Why? Because they're white men. Now, like I said before, I can understand how it may be difficult, how it is absolutely difficult for you to be a white person in this country and to actually have to pause and take in consideration that you have a position in this country that other people are not privileged to have.
Like, I don't know. I do find that difficult, not because there's some emotional hurdle to it, but because I just don't see how that's true. How is that true? What position do I have on the basis of my whiteness? Like, I can't think of anything my whiteness has ever done for me. And I know we're getting into this whole white privilege argument now. But I mean, like, what do I got? Like, tell me what I got. Tell me what power, ability, whatever I have just on the basis of being white. Like, what special ability or privilege do I have because of my white skin that you don't have because of your black skin? And I guess there's a few things you could maybe point to in that instance. Like, I can definitely tell you that when the cops are behind me or something, I'm kind of like, well, I'm glad I'm white. So I guess I have that. I guess it's maybe like I'm a little bit less likely to be abused by this cop. I'm a little bit less likely to be instantly thought of as a criminal by this cop that's about to pull me over. So maybe I got that. And I know there's like some forms of discrimination, like in housing and stuff that we've seen. So I guess I could see it on that level, but I don't really view that as like, hey, I have this special privilege that black people don't have. I view that as like, hey, here's what the standard baseline level should be, and I think all people should be treated that way. I feel like there's too much of this idea in your rhetoric and the rhetoric of others like you of like, white people have all these privileges, so we need to take that shit away from them. It's like, no, if there's a discrepancy where white people are being treated more fairly than other people, then other people should be treated more fairly. And that's just how that goes. And obviously, we should devote time and energy to addressing those problems. But once again, I think that there's just much higher priorities at this point than we have to pander to this racial group or that group or whatever. Get the fucking healthcare done. Get the fucking terms of police reform that maybe would take care of some of that shit. And I understand that you're a black dude. I don't know what it's like to be black. I'm not saying I fucking do understand that. But I don't really feel like I have any sort of special place in society where I get to be a shot caller or something. Like if I ran for fucking, I guarantee you, like even in my conservative fucking little area that I live in, if it was like the mayor election of this town is down to me and some conservative black dude, they're not going to just be like, well, you know, we're going to vote for him because he's white. No, they're going to vote for the conservative black dude who talks their fucking language. They're not going to vote for me. So I don't have some one-way ticket into the corridors of power. The most I can come up with is I might be treated a little bit better by the cops. And that's not even a guarantee because plenty of cops have been total fucking pricks to me in my life. And I might be treated a little better in things like, you know, housing. And maybe I won't be the victim of as many stereotypes or something. But, you know, a lot of that isn't really legislative. That's like human behavior. You know, there are racists out there, and you can't legislate them away. That just has to happen naturally through social evolution.
And that there's a power structure, like Bill O'Reilly said, that is created and caters to you.
How?
And as a result, there are unique problems that were created by that power structure for which you are a beneficiary. Through which you're a beneficiary.
Right.
There are problems.
Like, all right, I'm hearing a lot about the existence of these problems, not hearing a tremendous amount of specificity about exactly what they are. So maybe get into that. I'm hoping you will.
Created by that power structure that everyone else who is not a white Christian man has had to fight relentlessly throughout American history, hell, throughout world history.
I don't care about. Listen, we're talking about now. All right. History is one thing. That's fine. We can talk about history, but I'm not talking about history. We're talking about now. What now? So tell me exactly what you're talking about. Lay it out for me. Go.
Or at least the history of Western civilization.
Okay, great.
We have had to fight relentlessly against white Christian male power.
Okay. How?
They can see the Christian problem. They just can't see. I mean.
Okay, the problem with Christians, once again, is not power. It's stupidity. The problem with Christians, and by the way, you are a Christian. The problem with Christians is that they're gullible and that they believe in a magical dude in the sky who created everything and who controls everything and who is the master of all fate and destiny, who has complete and utter dominion over all of existence, and apparently has all these very specific rules laid out for human beings. And politicians look at that and say, hey, people really let their guard down and stop being skeptical when it comes to this religious bullshit, so let's parrot that down to them and say, you know what? God likes me. God told you to vote for me. I'm on the side of God, just like you. And the idiots are like, oh, yeah, you and me, I love God, you love God, you want to do God's will on earth, which happens to coincide with the will of the rich business interests that have bought and paid for you. Let's do it. I'm down. So if anything, like Christianity, most Christians are just useful idiots to the political establishment, just like most identitarians are fucking useful idiots to the political establishment. That's how I view it. And I think that people who allow themselves to get suckered into the politics of, well, I'm white, so I got to vote for this fucking candidate. Like, oh, Trump's got the back of white people, so I'm going to vote for Trump. You know, that person's an idiot and a racist. So why is the person who says, well, I'm black, so I got to vote for this candidate because they got the interests of black people at heart, how is that person any less racist? Maybe we need to stop looking at just our own little group and our own little special interest, and start looking at the bigger fucking picture. That's the only thing I'm really saying to you. You know, I don't know. Maybe some of the things I'm saying are insensitive, or maybe in some regards I'm clueless, or maybe I just don't understand the fucking black experience in America. It's pretty much guaranteed I don't understand the black experience in America. But here's what I do know at the end of the fucking day. And I know I've made this point like several times throughout this, so I'll stop belaboring it. But like, maybe we should get together and focus on the things that are mutually beneficial. You know? Not saying we totally have to put away any sort of special interest kind of stuff. It'd be like if I was saying, hey, fuck healthcare for everybody, fuck paid leave, fuck all this shit that, this Bernie Sanders highfalutin shit. When are we going to take God off the money? I'm an atheist, and I'm tired of being oppressed by God on the money. Think about how I feel when it says, in God we trust on our money. That has to be the top priority. Get that out of there. Get that shit the fuck gone. We can talk about all that other high fucking horse bullshit and free healthcare and all that and free college and all that stuff. We can talk about that after we get God off the money and we get God out of the pledge and we get God out of every fucking aspect of public life. And when we start taxing churches, because that's what really is important. Because I'm an atheist and that's my identity and that's the most important thing and that's the only thing. And any candidate who doesn't support me on these things, fuck that candidate. Like, you would see that position as so fucking irrational. So fucking irrational. But I could still make a case for, like, hey, look at all the ways atheists have been discriminated against. It used to be illegal. I mean, there's still laws in the books in most states. They're unconstitutional. They wouldn't hold up. There's still laws in a bunch of states that say atheists can't hold public office. And at one point, those were upheld. And there's been plenty of discrimination against atheists in this country. And there still is in some forms to this day. But that doesn't give me an excuse to say, hey, none of these things that benefit everyone matter because they're not my little pet issue. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really the identity politics necessarily in and of themselves that are the fucking problem. It's the prioritization of those above the things that actually benefit everybody. It's saying, it's just this selfish conceit of, hey, the stuff that's important to me and my group of people is more important than the stuff that benefits everybody.
Not to be redundant, but can anyone guess why they can't see the problem with the white male power structure, but they could see the problem with the white male Christian? They could see the Christian.
I see a problem with any sort of power structure that is based on white or fucking, your race in general. Or your religion in general, or any of that stuff. Like, that shouldn't be how power is distributed in this country. So, saying, like, I'm turning a blind eye to this white Christian power structure, I mean, whatever. I do think you're overplaying that card and, like, overblowing that problem. But, to whatever extent that does exist, I'm against it. I'm against it because I'm against a power structure that's based on a racial identity or a religious identity or any of that shit. It should be based upon, like, to me, the people who should have power in this country are the people. I think that's the idea behind a fucking democracy. I understand, constitutional republic, blah, 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 blah. People hate when you use the word democracy to describe our system. But our leaders are democratically elected. The idea is the people of this country get together, they choose a representative, that representative goes to Washington and represents their interests. That's what I believe in. And I don't give a fuck, what the racial constitution of a district is. I don't give a fuck what the race of the person they vote for is. What I give a fuck about is, are they representing the interests of the people? And I think the interest of the people in this country is the stuff I've already outlined before, the stuff that Bernie Sanders has talked about extensively. I won't bother repeating myself ad nauseum. But that stuff is the will of the fucking people, and it should be done. That's where power should rest. It should rest in the fucking vox populi, not based on any sort of other criteria. And right now, I hate to break it to you, but it's not white Christian males who run the country. It's rich people. Because I can point to you any fucking number of white Christian males who have zero fucking power in this country. But I can't point to one billionaire who doesn't have power. Every single billionaire on the planet has power based on the fact that they're a billionaire. Tons of powerless white people, tons of powerless Christians, right? Tons of powerless men. How many powerless billionaires are there? None. They're all powerful.
Christian problem, but not the white male problem. Okay, I was being extremely redundant there. But so there are unique problems that are specific, that
right.
are.
All All right, so you're kind of going in circles. I feel like I'm kind of going in circles. Whatever. I mean, I can see how there's some maybe miscommunication going on. I don't know if you fully see where I'm coming from. I don't know if I fully see where you're coming from. Definitely an interesting discussion, though. But we got to move on because I think it's just I'm getting to the point where I feel like I've made the same points like 3 or 4 times now, and I feel like you have too. So I'm sorry if I'm missing anything here, but I just feel like in order to avoid being too redundant, I got to move on. You keep me sane, Chi J. All right, so wow, we've been doing this for a while now. Let's go ahead and move on to the next story here. Actually, let's talk to the chat for a minute. Let's see how many people are even watching right now. I know a lot of people went off to go watch Rick and Morty a while back. I think that happened a while ago, though, so they should probably be done with that by now. So raise your hand if you're still watching. Is there anybody still in the audience? Is anyone still watching this shit? Yeah, there's 219 watching, so surprised the chat isn't more active at that rate. What's next? There's a lot. I don't know. There is the next thing we're going to look at is about Rodney Reed, who is supposed to be executed in about 10 days, or I'm sorry, 9 days at this point. I'm here, just resubbed. Good to see you doing Abandoned Hope. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we got plenty more shit. I'm actually surprised how long it took to just get through the shit we had. But yeah, we're going to look at Rodney Reed in a second here. But for now, I'm just going to kind of chat. So if anybody has anything they want to bring up, or maybe they have some commentary on what we just discussed, or maybe they have some kind of unrelated thing they'd like to discuss. You know, if anybody wants to throw a fucking idea out there, I'm willing to entertain some notions. So I'll tell you a brief overview of some of the stuff I have left here. Actually, I think I'm going to play this first because that's fun. Okay, so we got some stuff there. So we got the Rodney Reed stuff coming up. We got some Howard Blum stuff coming up because Howard Blum had a movie made about him. And I'll explain a little bit more about that when we get into it. But there's something really funny that I think you all need to see. I got some of that crazy preacher. I don't remember his name. I think his name is Pastor Stephen L. Anderson. He's a crazy bigot. He said, "What atheists pretend they don't fear." So I figured that'd be funny. I have another atheist thing, which is a simple question for atheists. We're going to take a look at that. It's a real short little video. We have some OK Boomer stuff. I'm going to talk about that maybe. I got some stuff about trans actors complaining about being shut out from movies and television. I got some, what is this? This is identifying differently doesn't invalidate your previous identities. So it's another terrible feminist comic. I don't know if it's terrible. I haven't actually read it yet, so we're going to look at it real time, see what we can do with it. And I got, we could take a look at the Donald maybe. And then I was thinking about maybe watching some movie trailers, but man, I'm not sure about that because, wow, we've been going for a while now. And wow, I thought we would have been further along in this shit by then. I didn't realize how long I was going to spend on some of these people. Anyway, so let's talk about Howard Blum for a second here. So I have a friend, and his name is Howard Blum. All right. Actually, let me start that again with in this mode here. So I have a friend. His name is Howard Blum. He has written several books, probably the best of which is called The Lucifer Principle, a scientific expedition into the forces of history, I believe is the subtitle of the book. He's a really smart guy. He's very much a little bit crazy. He was a huge music publicist back in the 80s. A lot of fucking people he represented were huge, people at the time, like Joan Jett, Michael Jackson, shit like that. Just huge, big, mega successful artists that he represented. And he had a very unique style about him. Still does to this day. Knows a lot of powerful, influential people. Very self-aggrandizing guy as well. He can pretty much speak, make a grandiloquent speech on any sort of subject matter you put before him, but his favorite subject matter to opine about is probably himself. He's been on Joe Rogan. He's been on all kinds of stuff. Now, one of the claims, he was on Drunken Peasants a bunch of times back in the day. I've done some stuff with him where we just had discussions and we kind of talk, and, people can listen to those, and they're all there on my channel and stuff. Just type Howard Bloom on my search bar, and you'll see the stuff I did with him. But one of the claims he's made frequently is that he wakes up every morning and does something like 800, 900, 1,000 push-ups, things like that. And it's like he's like 80 years old. So it's like, what? You do 1,000 push-ups when you're fucking 80 years old? Or 78 or however old he is? He's a really old man. Looks great for his age, though. Has a lot of energy. So while this documentary was being made about him, we asked him about the push-ups thing. So a lot of people, let me go back a little bit. So when he said that he does 1,000 push-ups in the morning, people were like, okay, so that doesn't sound legit. That sounds kind of funky to me. So people were like, can you video yourself doing these push-ups? And he was like, nope, can't do it because I can only do it right when I wake up, right the very second. If I try to do it any other time, I can't do it. It's like, okay. So there's number one. So then, so it's like for a while, people, it's just like, all right, well, we have no proof he can't do 1,000 push-ups. So then this documentary starts to get made, all right? And the documentary, by the way, I think it's called, I don't know what the name of this is. Let's see. I think it's called The Grand Unified Theory of Howard Bloom, okay? And it looks good. It looks like it's going to be an interesting documentary. I'm definitely going to check it out. I have massive respect for Howard. I don't want this to come across like I'm disrespecting Howard or whatever. But so when this documentary was filming, I think I had a conversation with him, and I asked him about the push-ups thing. And he's like, well, it turns out what I'm doing is not actually a push-up. It's like, okay, what? what do you mean it's not actually a push-up? Well, I'm doing some kind of weird torquing thing, And it's like, okay, I'm really having trouble visualizing that. All right, so for those of you who don't who aren't looking at the screen, who are like playing a game or something, stop. Because I'm about to show you what a Howard Bloom push-up fucking looks like, okay? So let's fucking find the moment. And you only get a glimpse of it, but... All right, here it is. Okay, we're going to watch this in a second. Okay, so I'm about to press play, and you're about to see a glimpse of the Howard Bloom push-up, okay? And I'm going to warn you, it's fucking hilarious.
Keeps it all together. The glue is...
Did you catch it? Let's watch it again. Okay.
the stuff that keeps it all together.
God damn. Howard, listen. I love you, man. I fucking love you, dude. That is not even in the fucking same universe as what a push-up is. Okay? Look, I respect Howard Bloom. I love Howard Bloom. He's a great dude. Really interesting guy. Super smart. But that is not a push-up. That is not in the same ballpark as a push-up. That is not in the same universe as a push-up. You know how I was talking in the Rick and Morty segment about how in infinite universes there are infinite possibilities? I was wrong. Because in no universe in the entire multiverse is that a fucking push-up, dude. That is a plank with some headbanging. That's not a push-up. Hey, maybe it's great exercise. I'm glad he's doing it. I'm glad it's getting his blood pumping in the morning. That is not a push-up. That is not a arm torque. That is a plank with some headbanging. That's what that is. That's what that is. Okay? So, love you, Howard, but no, man. Just no. Sorry. Nuh-uh. Oh, my God. Oh. How does somebody not know how a push-up is performed? Dude, if you knew Howard Blum, you wouldn't even ask that fucking question, dude. there's he's like I said, he's a brilliant dude, but he is on his own planet, okay? And on Howard's planet is the only place where that's a fucking push-up. Yeah, I can't wait to see if there's make a GIF, please. If you can make a GIF, oh, you want me to make the GIF? No, I'm not making the GIF. But if anyone out there wants to make a GIF and send it to me, yeah, say magnifique, please do. Do it 1,000 times and see how you feel. You know, that's a fair challenge. Let's see the fucking, I might not even be able to do it. Because, look, he's a little scrawny Jewish dude. I'm a big, fat motherfucker. I might not even be able to hold that position for long enough to do it. 1,000 of those. But maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll try it out. I don't have the camera set up to do it right now, but, maybe it'll be a thing that I'll put on my little to-do list of, like, here's some possible things I might do. All right. So let's look at some this Rodney Reed story. So this is a crazy story. 10 facts you need to know about Rodney Reed, who is scheduled for execution on November 20th. Here's Rodney Reed right here. And he's, of course, in Texas, the state where they love to kill people. The murder weapon has never been tested for DNA evidence. So right there, that alone is a giant red flag. Why not? Why has the murder weapon not been tested for DNA? The state's 3 forensic experts have admitted on the record to errors in their testimony, which led to Reed's conviction and death sentence. I'm going to read a little bit more about that one. The 3 forensic experts from Reed's original trial have submitted affidavits that the original time of death is inaccurate, which makes the timeline for the Reed killings, Stites implausible. So they'd never tested the murder weapon. The three forensic experts have said that their time of death was wrong. They've said in sworn affidavits that the time of death was wrong, so the entire timeline of how the crime was supposed to have taken place is wrong. Renowned forensic pathologists, including Michael Baden, MD, Werner Spitz, MD, Leroy Riddick, MD, and Cyril Wecht, MD, have concluded that Reed's guilt is medically and scientifically impossible. The prosecution's only forensic evidence linking Reed to the crime was semen taken from Stites' body, which was attributed to the consensual relationship between them. The prosecutor used this to connect him to the murder and refute his consensual romantic relationship, but supporting testimony has since been recanted and completely discredits the state's case. All right, so number 4. Rodney Reed and Stacey Stites were having a consensual sexual relationship. At the time of the trial, no one came forward to corroborate the relationship. Today, new witnesses, including Stites' own cousin and co-worker, have corroborated Reed's claims that they knew that Reed and Stites were romantically involved. So I've heard a lot of people, I brought this up on Twitter, and a lot of people said, oh, so his own friends and family have corroborated his consensual relationship? No. One of the co-workers of the victim and her own cousin have corroborated that she was having a consensual sexual relationship with him. So that's perfectly plausible to explain the semen. For months after the murder, Jimmy Fennell was the prime suspect in the case. A recording of one of the police investigators indicates that Fennell was suspected in the murder of Stites, motivated by her relationship with another man. All right? Number 6. Fennell's best friend at the time of the crime, Bastrop Sheriff's Office Curtis Davis, has now revealed that Fennell gave an inconsistent account of where he was on the night of the murder. All right? So, this guy was the prime suspect. He gave a faulty account of where he was. 2 witnesses have come forward in recent weeks and submitted signed affidavits that add to the mounting evidence against Jimmy Fennell. These affidavits include testimony from an insurance salesperson who stated that Fennell threatened to kill Stites while applying for life insurance. The second witness was a deputy in the Lee County Sheriff's Office at the time of the murder, who Fennell made an alarming and incriminating statement to at Stites' funeral regarding her body. Number 8. Fennell later served a 10-year prison term for a sex crime and kidnapping. Law enforcement records also document a pattern of violence against women perpetrated by Fennell. So the guy who was the main suspect had an inconsistent testimony, and years after the murder went to jail for kidnapping and sexual assault. All right? The case, number 9, the case was racially charged. Reed, a black man, was found guilty of murdering Stites, a white woman, by an all-white jury. Okay. So number 10, a confession by Jimmy Fennell has come to light. On October 29th, 2019, Arthur Snow, a former member of the Aryan Brotherhood and prison mate of Jimmy, disclosed a conversation in which Jimmy confessed to murdering Stacey Stites, stating, I had to kill my, I can't say that word on YouTube, loving fiance. Okay? So, with those 10 facts in mind, there is pretty much no doubt in my mind that Rodney Reed is completely innocent of the crime that he is probably going to be executed for in 9 days. So, if this execution goes through, and all indications right now are that it will, this is an example of the state of Texas murdering a person who is 99% chance innocent. So even if you think this guy did it, even if you're one of these people who, when I posted this story on Twitter, were like, no, I still think he did it. Do you really think, in light of those 10 facts, that he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? Because if you believe that, I think you have to be fucking retarded. Like, I'm not saying, like, colloquially, like, oh, you're a retard. I'm saying, like, no, you must have some sort of mental incapacity. Like, you're developmentally challenged in some way if you believe that this man is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I think you have to be kind of stupid to believe he's guilty, period. It's pretty fucking obvious that Jimmy Fennell, the fiance, did this shit. We have a fucking cellmate that says he did it. We have him making suspicious statements during an application for life insurance. We have him giving an inconsistent account of where he was the night of the murder. And we know for a fact that he engages in the kind of crimes that was committed against this woman because he was convicted of it 10 fucking years afterwards. So we know he has that pattern of behavior. 99% chance Jimmy Fennell committed this fucking crime and Rodney Reed is going to be executed for it. So, Texas, what the fuck, bro? What are you doing? Don't do it. Don't do it. By the way, just so you know, just put it out there, not really the place and time to make this case, but even if this motherfucker was guilty, I'd still be opposed to executing him. I'm against the death penalty, 100%. Don't care who it is. Life in prison is punishment enough for any crime you can commit on the face of this earth. All right, so we're going to take a look in a minute at this fucking closeted gay pastor that hates gay people. And his name, who cares what his name is? We're going to look at him in a minute. This is a video called What Atheists Pretend They Don't Fear, so we can look forward to that in a minute. But I am going to take a little break. I'll be back momentarily. Don't go away. And we're going to have some more fun here on Abandon Hope. Okay. Hey, y'all. I'm back. Let's watch this shit.
But then it says the men were exceedingly afraid. You know what I think here? When it says the men were exceedingly afraid, what made them get so scared all of a sudden? When they found out that he's a Hebrew and that his God is Jehovah, that's when all of a sudden they really get freaked out. So when he said,
it's like, oh, fuck. We fucking with Jehovah now. Oh, by the way, someone asked me, how do I know this guy is closeted gay? Because he's a homophobe. And there's science to back that up. I know a lot of people that don't like it. Like, oh, you just think all I hate that people think all homophobes are closeted gay. They are.
yeah, I'm running from God.
Oh, and by the way, the science that backs it up is there have been studies where there's a device they can put around your penis that measures arousal. They've put homophobes in it. They've put straight dudes who are comfortable with their sexuality in it. And they've showed them gay porn. The homophobes got aroused. The straight dudes who were comfortable in their own sexuality did not get aroused. So you can look it up. It's a study. It's a real thing. Go check it out.
God, they just, that's funny. All right, let's drop the anchor or lift the anchor and let's go. That didn't freak him out when he told them that he was running from God. But what freaked him out is when they find out he's running from the God of the Hebrews. And then,
because that's the super God, right? And like, if we were just talking about some fucking like whatever, Amon-Ra or something, that's like, whatever, who cares? But when they find out you're running from Jehovah, oh shit, that's when you know it's serious business. Well, let me ask you this. If all those people knew that Jehovah is the most badass God there is, wouldn't they all be worshiping him too? Wouldn't they be trying to get curry favor with Jehovah? Like, okay, we all know Jehovah's the most powerful God, so let's all get behind Jehovah. So I don't buy this idea that, all these people who don't worship Jehovah nonetheless recognize that he's the supreme God. Because if they really recognize that, they'd be worshiping them damn selves, right? So doesn't make sense.
And they see the storm and they see what's going on. I think these people deep down knew that the God of the Hebrews was different than all their other gods.
Deep down they knew. Deep down they knew. They didn't know consciously, but in their gut, they're like, oh shit, we fucking with a serious God now. He ain't like all our other phony baloney gods. This God's legit.
And idols and everything. You know what I mean? There are all these religions out there. There are all these false gods. But you know what? The God of the Bible is unique. The God of the Bible is special.
Citation needed. All right, you're going to explain why. Let's hear why.
And deep down, people know he's the true God.
All right, yeah.
He's the real God.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That's why atheists, you don't see atheists just freaking out about Hinduism all the time.
I mean, you probably would if they were in a predominantly Hindu country. I mean, I know some atheists from the Muslim world, and they're primarily concerned with Allah. Why? Because that's the shit that's around them. If you're an atheist in a Hindu country, you're probably concerned with Hinduism. If you're an atheist in a predominantly Christian country, like the one we live in, then yeah, you're probably predominantly concerned with Christianity, because that's the religion that you probably grew up in. That's the religion you've been subjected to the most. So it's nothing to do with like, oh, we recognize that that's the real God. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with that's what's the dominant religion in our fucking culture, you idiot.
Right? You know. Like for example, somebody sent me this. Somebody texted me this video of some guy, Ron Reagan. I don't know. I guess this guy is a child of President Ronald Reagan. Who knows what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Ron Reagan is one of the children of Ronald Reagan, and he is a liberal. I don't know how liberal he is, but I know he's on the liberal side of things.
Video. Is that who that is? Is that his son?
Yes.
That it seems like it, right? It kind of looked like him. Whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway,
maybe you should have. I don't know. Maybe you should have researched this before you start. Okay, whatever. I talk out of my ass all the time too. I can't criticize that.
This video was going around this week of this guy. He was trying to raise money during the Democratic debate. They had this commercial where he's trying to raise money for this thing called the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Cool.
Just some kind of a charity for shutting down religion in schools or government, just making sure that Jesus isn't mentioned, that the Bible's not mentioned. So it's just
cool. Sounds good. Let's do it.
this atheist, godless thing. And then at the end, at the very end of the video, he's like, oh, and by the way, you know, I'm not scared of going to hell for all eternity. That's what he literally said at the end. You saw, right? Did anybody else see it except me and him? Hey, I'm glad we've seen this, you know. But basically,
hey, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna suck your dick behind the church later. We're bonding over this.
He literally at the end just, oh, and by the way, you know, I'm not scared of going to hell. What?
All right, let's take a look at what he's talking about. Let's see if I can find this video and see the spirit of that this was set in. Ron Reagan, Freedom from Religion commercial. Okay, Freedom from Religion Foundation commercial. All right, so let's take a quick look. Let's see the ad so we got some context on this shit. We can kind of see the spirit this was set in and all that. Okay.
An unabashed atheist.
All right, here we go.
Hi, I'm Ron Reagan, an unabashed atheist, and I'm alarmed by the intrusions of religion into our secular government. That's why I'm asking you to support the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest and most effective association of atheists and agnostics, working to keep state and church separate, just like our founding fathers intended. Please support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Ron Reagan, lifelong atheist, not afraid of burning in hell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He seems terrified, dude. I don't believe him. I think the only reason he mentioned that is because he is afraid of burning in hell. Whoop. Okay. So we got our context. Let's keep going.
Why say that?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Why say that? Let me think. Why would he say that? Oh, maybe it's because that's your guys' main selling point that you constantly beat people over the head with. Maybe because every time someone says, I'm an atheist, some moron's like, well, you're going to burn in hell, boy. You don't believe in Jesus like what I do, you're going to burn you in the hell. Maybe he's saying it for that reason. Maybe he's just trying to kind of head it off at the pass. I don't know. That could be it. That's my theory.
You know why? Because he is scared. Yeah. I'm not scared of heights. No, I'm not. I don't.
Oh, yeah, that's how he said it. Oh, by the way, guys, just so you know, I'm not scared of hell. Yeah, that's how it was. I remember when I saw him just there, you could see the fear in his eyes. You could see it. No, that wasn't how it was said. It didn't come across that way at all. You're a fucking moron, etc.
I'm not scared of the dark. No, not at all. I'm not scared of the boogeyman. You know, there's an infinite number of things for you not to be scared of.
Right.
Why bring that up?
Because he's specifically talking about the religion. I mean, like, you get this, right? You're a hellfire and brimstone preacher, right? You tell people they're going to go to hell all the time. So don't you think maybe he just mentioned it as a means of refuting you? Don't you think he mentioned it to say, hey, by the way, I know you guys think you got a real good sales pitch going with this whole hell thing, but it's really no sweat off my balls because I don't believe it's real. I think maybe that's why he said it. Could be wrong. Maybe he really is, in his heart of hearts, just terrified of hell, and he felt the need to work it into his 30-second piece.
Oh, I'm not scared of going to hell. But isn't it interesting he didn't say, well, I'm not scared of being reincarnated as something stupid.
Right. 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 Once again, Ron Reagan, I'm assuming, is an American. He comes from a country where like 75 to 80% of people are Christians. So he's talking in terms of Christianity because that's the dominant religion in the culture that he lives in. This is really not hard to grasp. This is real basic shit.
You know what I mean?
I'm glad that these people are having a great old time, man. It's so fucking fun to watch them just like laughing it up. Ha ha ha! Aren't we smart? Yeah. Why didn't he fucking point out how he ain't scared of being reincarnated as a cockroach? Oh, because he knows. He knows the true religion deep down. Deep down in his heart, he knows what's what. I hate this fucking shit.
Atheists' anger is directed at Christianity.
Right. I want to be, man, if I ever decide to become a religious moron, I hope I can be the guy in the audience that just, like, everything the preacher says, I'm just like, right. Right. You right again. Woohoo. You right. Right.
Right? Why did he say, well, I'm not afraid of coming back as whatever scummy, person who's born in like the worst part of India in some dirty slum or something, or coming back as some
India. Man, why what the fuck? What's with this? Why are you singling out the cruelty to India? I mean, there's so many things you could be reincarnated as. I love all the things, all the horrible things you could be, like, like a blobfish, or like a mosquito, or a slug. He goes right to, like, Indian person, the lowest form of life.
Unsavory animal or something, right? No, he brings out hell. And look, he's not thinking about Islam. He's not thinking about Hinduism. He's not thinking about Buddhism. He's not thinking about Scientology or something. I don't care about all the Thetans or whatever. He's basically saying, look, I'm not scared of going to the hell of the New Testament. That's what he's talking about. That's what's on his mind. Jesus Christ is where his anger is directed. And I think people know.
He didn't really seem angry to me. Where his anger is directed? I was listening to him talk, and I mean, like with most atheists, there is a kind of sense of smugness and a sense of, like, I am superior because I have cast away these ridiculous superstitions. So if you want to say he was smug about it, I could get behind that. I'm a smug fuck myself. But to say he was angry, I mean, he really didn't come across as angry, bro.
That, the gods of the heathen are idols. The God of the Hebrews,
All right, so basically, I've already made the refutation here. I mean, his point is that, why is he, if he's not, if our religion isn't the one true religion, why does he single it out? Well, he singles it out because it's the dominant religion in the culture he lives in. And that's the answer to the question. So there's no more to discuss. So that handles that one. Next. This next one is called, Can any atheist answer me this simple question? Let's take a look. All right, so there's some stupid music. We'll just mute it because it's all text. And then he's gonna show us these fucking hilarious memes that he couldn't even crop right. Yeah, I mean, like, you fucking put this meme in here. Hey, you cut off the meme, bro. Can't even see the full T over there. All right. Oh no, questions plague me. Head in the sand. Head in the sand. Plug the ears up. Don't want to hear it. Avoiding the question. Why do so many atheists want there not to be a God, and why do so many atheists constantly say there is no evidence for God? All right, so let me just answer those in order. So there's actually two questions there. It's not one question, as you claimed. So the first question is, why do so many atheists want there not to be a God? I really wouldn't give a shit. I mean, like, I don't have any sort of special, like, I hope there's no God. I just don't think there is one. If there was a God, I mean, like, if I had a choice, like, if someone was like, all right, so you can choose between a godless, uncaring universe, or you can have a universe with a God that loves you and wants to reward you with eternal life and favor and stuff. I mean, I think I'd take that universe. Be like, all right, yeah, I'll do that. I'll take the caring, loving God package, sure. So there's not this big impetus of, like, I mean, I wouldn't want the God of the Christian Bible. I mean, he seems like a total prick. But, if we had, like, a generic loving God that all the hippies kind of talk about, yeah, I'd go for that. Why not? Seems nice. So the second question is, why do so many atheists constantly say there is no evidence for God? Because there isn't any. So a very simple answer to a very simple question. You have the right to say you don't accept the evidence, but to keep saying there is none is so childish and frustratingly uninformed, and limits an even basic debate or discussion from happening. For example, I am given the evidence for evolution over and over, and I admit what I am given is evidence. I just don't agree it points to evolution, and 100% disagree it's an airtight argument that most wannabe scientists portray it to be. I do admit I am given what the evolutionists consider evidence. It's like any court case. Evidence is presented and you decide what you believe, but both sides do present evidence, as is the case with the atheists and the Christians. The atheists say there is no evidence, even when shown there is. You can disagree with the evidence, but to keep saying there is none is so biased and played out and not factual and boring. At least debate the evidence, as I have with evolutionists, and quit saying there is none. It sounds foolish. Okay. So where is it? Like, I mean, you think... I love these people that like to reference things but never explain what the fuck they're talking about. So your contention is that atheists dismiss the evidence for God as even being evidence, and yet you don't provide the evidence. Like, where is it? You would think that if you're going to say, hey, all these atheists are denying the evidence of God, you would think that that discussion would include you being like, such as this, this, and this. But you didn't do that. You know why? Because there isn't any fucking evidence. If there's evidence of God, why isn't it in this fucking video? Where is it? I don't know what you would say. Would you say the Bible is evidence of God? Would you pull some blind watchmaker bullshit on us? I mean, I don't know what your evidence for God is, so it's kind of hard to refute. But I also love the idea that this is like a court case. Like, his idea of what a court case is pretty fucking ridiculous too. It's like both sides present evidence, and then you decide what's true. I mean, I guess to some extent that's how it works. But I mean, like, if you go to a fucking, if you're on a jury and they have, okay, well, the suspect's DNA is on the weapon, and his semen was found at the scene, and, carpet fibers on the victim's shirt match the carpet fibers in his van, and, the victim's blood was found in his home, and, all this other shit. Like, at some point, it's like, okay, this is not a matter of like, we got to decide. It's like, no, the evidence is incontrovertible. He's guilty. And when it comes to evolution, it's the same way. The evidence that evolution is true is incontrovertible. The evidence that God is true is non-fucking existent. It's not there. I mean, it's just not. Most Christians, if you ask them to prove God, it's just like, well, it's in the Bible. It's like, okay, that's a book. There's a book that said, there's another book called the Quran that has a totally different version of events. There's another book called the Bhagavad Gita that has a totally different version of events. There's tons of other little religious texts and cults and things out there that have their own fucking texts and documents about what the truth is. Anybody can write a book that says, hey, here's the truth. Doesn't mean it's fucking true. Doesn't matter how many people believe it. Doesn't matter if you sucker 1 million people or 1 billion people or 2 billion people. Doesn't matter if you sucker every person on earth. Writing it down and getting other people to believe it is not evidence. It's not up to people what's true and not true. If everybody, there was a point in history where the majority of people thought tomatoes were poison. They're not. They're perfectly fine. You can eat a tomato. In fact, we do it all the time. Pretty much every fast food hamburger you order has got a fucking tomato on it. At one point, people thought they were fucking poisonous. So a bunch of people believing something is not evidence. A book, the fact that a book was written one time is not evidence. The fact that you can make some convoluted argument about every painting has a painter, therefore whatever, is not evidence. So, fuck you. Your question's stupid. And until you show me some evidence of God, you don't get to complain that I dismiss your evidence of God. And that's how that goes. Anyway. Well, I do have a few stories left over, but I think we've gone long enough. It's been about 3.5 hours. I feel like the wind is kind of leaving my sails a little bit. So I'm probably going to go ahead and sign off. But maybe I'll have a little chat with the chat before I do that. If you guys have any questions, comments, things you'd like to discuss briefly or in depth even, I'm willing to do that if they're interesting to me. So let's kind of talk for a second if you guys want. But yeah, I've put 3.5 hours in this motherfucker. I feel like that's pretty good. But like I said, I'm gonna turn it to you guys and see what you got to say. I know it takes a minute for you guys to catch up in terms of the lag and stuff like that. Keep going, TJ. No, I think I'm done with the stories for now. But we'll revisit this. Long haul, TJ. It's already been a long haul. It's been long enough. My throat's parched. I'm good. I need a break. It's time to go. All right, I'm gonna go now. Great stream, TJ. Thank you. Joker was good, but Lighthouse is the film of the year. See it, TJ. All right, I'll check it out. When's the next chapter of The Order of Chaos going to come out? I need to work on that. That's true. Good point. I don't know yet. But, yeah, I should definitely start working on that more seriously. Klobuchar overtook Yang on RCP. Gross. Always good to watch you, man. Even when I'm showering. Come on. Don't be a pervert. Poo-poo pee-pee? Yeah, I agree. GG. All right. Another intellectual. The Christians have finally defeated you. I agree. I had no refutation. I had just like, wow. Really made me think, man. It really made me think. It really challenged me on a deep intellectual level. How much money would it take to get you to do 25 push-ups on stream? Well, right now I've been working out extensively. I just ordered a pair of 35-pound weights because the 25s have gotten too easy to do certain exercises with. So I've been working pretty persistently on building up my strength. As you might know, I'm on a quest to get fuscular, which is fat and muscular. Yeah, I've never done a push-up in my life. I've never been capable of doing a push-up in my life. I have a very weird body morphology. I have a fucking very, very long torso and relatively stubby legs for my tall frame. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I think it gives me a weird center of gravity, so it's actually very hard to do a push-up. I've tried. So my goal right now actually is to be able to do even one push-up because I've never done one in my entire existence on this planet. So I'm hoping to get strong enough to do a push-up, but it hasn't happened yet. So doing 25 is a long way off for me. But, yeah, I'm hoping to be able to do one at some point in the near future. Yeah, I do say legs weird. That's true. Good. Thank you for pointing that out. Segmento, yeah. I would die if you did a video of you doing Howard Bloom push-ups. Now, I could do a Howard Bloom push-up. So there we go. But 25 push-ups is not in the realm of possibility for me yet. I think it will be. Yeah, right now is my big goal, to be able to actually, with my arms, lift up my fat fucking body from the ground. When are y'all going to take a walk down Steelmanville Road? We definitely need to clear some time on the calendar to sit down and take the journey. I think you just don't know the physicality, which isn't an insult. It's more complicated than it seems. Maybe. That's possible. Thoughts on Kratom? I tried it. I don't have any problem with anybody doing any drug. I believe in legalizing all drugs. But that one wasn't for me. I didn't really find it it did much for me. I took a decent amount, too, so don't say I didn't take enough. I did. Can you do sit-ups? They're pretty easy. I can do sit-ups if my legs are down. I can't do them if my legs are up. Like, I can't do them if I have my knees up. I think it's just because I have too much fat. It just is, I can't compress it enough. But if I keep my legs flat, I can sit up without using my arms for assistance. So that's not really a proper sit-up, but I can do that. I'm gonna jack myself off and say I broke my high school record on push-ups years ago. 72 in a minute, fat man. 72 in a minute. I don't buy it. I have a Pessimist Productions track in the works. I think you and the guys may enjoy it. I'm sure we probably will. Always liked your work. My beard seems to be getting shorter over time. I think my roommate might be trimming it in my sleep. That's a problem. When you die of a heart attack, can your fans barbecue you for one final meetup? That'd be cool. Yeah, I think you should. You still need to try nutmeg one day. Now that's an underrated drug. My understanding is that a nutmeg high is horrible. So I think you're just trying to trick me into a horrible incident of unimaginable suffering. But I appreciate that. I think that's you're a lovable little scamp. Butterfly kicks are better for you than sit-ups if you want to exercise that area, but I try to lose a bit of weight before caring about that. I'm not trying to lose weight at all. I'm just trying to build muscle. The whole point of what I'm doing is I want to get muscular. I don't want to get cut. I want power. I just want to be a big fat tank. I want to have equal parts fat and muscle. I want to be as muscular as I am fat. That's my goal. So, that's not a health goal. I don't think that's a healthy way to be. I just want it. Thoughts on gold standard as a policy? I don't think it's wise. I don't think we should tether currency to any sort of finite resource. I think you have to have the ability to manipulate currency, which is why you need fiat currency. You want to see you look good with a shaved head, like super attractive. Congrats. Aw, thank you. You're so sweet. Cheesy wants to be like Butterbean. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I'd like to be Butterbean-esque. Yeah. Butterbean's a fucking badass. And I think we need more fat badasses in the world. We need a fucking fat dude that can lift a fucking car over his head. So I'm going for that. I don't know. I think I'll fall far short of that goal, but whatever. I've stuck to it for like a month and a half, 2 months now, so hopefully I'll keep sticking to it and keep building up these fucking muscles. Because that's what I want to do. Have you cut down or quit smoking? No. Maybe, I don't know, compared to when. Because, there have been times when I smoked a lot more than I smoke now. But there have been times when I smoked nothing or less, so. Do you ever miss living with Paul, or do you prefer having a space over a roommate? I think that Paul and I are both people who appreciate a certain degree of privacy and autonomy. There are times when I miss living with Paul, but for the most part, I think that it's better to to live apart and to see him for work and occasional social stuff. Yeah, I've got investments in a few stocks. I don't have a huge portfolio, but I have some things. I have some Disney shares. I have some shares in a robotics ETF. I have some shares in a cannabis company, and I have some shares in a gold company. Will you do another Columbus meetup? Yeah, probably. I don't see why not. I'm going to grab another drink. I'll be right back. I think I'm going to try to take this to 2 a.m. because we're about 15 minutes from that. I think that rounds us up pretty nicely. So you guys keep them coming. I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab a drink. Only take me a second. I did want to take this opportunity really quick to once again say that my mom and stepdad, their dog is has some pretty serious health problems. I pimped at the beginning of the show. I don't know if that made a difference. I guess it made a little bit of a difference. So thank you to Rick Wooten and to Anonymous and to Paul Duncan, who all donated to help their doggy out. That's my stepdad, Steve, and his dog, Rebel, there. That's Rebel running down the fucking driveway. That's Rebel in the fucking grass. That's Rebel on the hunt, killing some ducks. That's Rebel in the boat. That's Rebel cuddling up with my mom. That's Rebel fucking looking miserable from all of his health issues. So I'll just kind of give you a fucking thing. Our baby has been poked and prodded in many different spots. They've almost run out of places to stick him. They started the CT scan 37 minutes ago. I'll post information when I find out what the exact diagnosis is. It's from 14 days ago. So let's see. This is a November 9th update, so that's just from a few days ago. After a horrid Thursday night, we had no choice but to take Rebel back to Southpaws yesterday morning. He is on IV meds for pain. They want to watch him and say they witnessed one of his episodes of crying out in pain. They have not done another CT scan as they think he might be having some sort of emotional anticipation of pain. They said sometimes it will happen with pampered dogs. Guilty. Rebel is very pampered. We won't be visiting since he gets overly excited when he sees us. It's killing me not to see him, but hopefully it will help with his recovery. Please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. So the dog's going through a lot of stuff right now, and they're sinking a lot of money into trying to get him better. So if you guys can do anything you can to ease the financial burden, I know there's a lot of animal lovers in this audience, and I know that there's a lot of these different charity things that are vying for your dollar, and you can't help every bit of suffering in the world, but I promised my family I'd put this out there, so I'm doing just that. If you feel inclined to help, you can do that. So back to the questions here. So let's see. What do we got? Cute doggo, poor thing, error. I'll try to give what I can. Well, I'm sure that my mom and my stepdad and my whole family will appreciate that. The dog is a total sweetheart, by the way. Just like, like your typical just like sad-eyed dog that'll come up to you and put his head in your lap, and he's not like super crazy over-the-top affectionate, but he's not, like mean or anything. He's like a sweet, sweet dog. And just real passive and nice and friendly and all that stuff. But that's that. What kind of issues do you find you and Paul disagreeing on consistently? I don't know. There's a few things, I guess, that we butt heads on here and there. I think it's more interesting when we do, honestly. I didn't like when it was like the meme was that TJ and Paul agree on everything, because that was kind of like whatever. But, I think it's much more interesting to have fucking spirited disagreements, and I think that over time, Paul has gotten way more, I think, I don't know if he's necessarily gotten way more radical in his opinions, but I think maybe he's more willing to express, how he truly feels about things. I don't know exactly, but, it's stuff like, we'll be talking about prison and Paul just be like, abolish all prison. It's like, well, wait a minute. I feel like maybe we need some kind of prison for some people. It's like, no, fuck it, no prison. Okay, well, let's have a discussion about that. I think it's always fun. I like people who have real opinions that you could sit there and talk with, and I think it's good. You and Paul should debate Rick and Morty. I don't really know what's there to debate. I mean, if there's some specific element of it, like, is Rick and Morty, insightful or intelligent or whatever, But if it's like, just like, is Rick and Morty good or bad? That's totally subjective. But I mean, I guess I could make a case for it. But I would hope that we'd focus on, if we ever did have a Rick and Morty debate, I would hope it would focus more on, the merits of this or that or the other thing, rather than just generic, is it good, is it bad kind of thing. Meet up in the Bay Area. San Francisco has its problems, but East Bay is pretty cool. Lots of good museums, art, food. Yeah, I think San Francisco seems pretty cool to visit. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously way too expensive to fucking live there. I'd imagine it's probably pretty expensive to visit there, but I would do it. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a cool city. Just gotta watch out for the poop. Do you believe microdosing psychedelics can possibly cure depression? I mean, yeah, I think it possibly could. I don't know for sure. I think more evidence, more research is needed, but it's kind of hard to do proper research when the government says, hey, this substance is illegal. What? Why? Hopefully you will have DFF meetups when I'm 21 in 1 year. Well, hopefully. I don't see why we wouldn't, but I guess you never know. Maybe we'll all die in a fucking horrific, accident or something. Do you think Trump will actually be impeached? No, probably not. I don't know, though. I mean, it's possible. Some new heinous shit could come to light. Question, but I'm curious, how often do you and Paul just hang out and get high and discuss ideas? Do you guys act the same IRL as you do on the shows, or more chill? I'd say it's about the same. Sometimes Paul will come around and, he's more wanting to be kind of left alone, and that's fine. Other times we're very social and we talk. But most of when we see each other is for work. I mean, I always thought it was weird, like when, like Penn and Teller, it's like, oh, we don't really see each other socially. We just kind of work together. It's like, well, that's so weird because they're such an iconic duo. You'd think that they would spend more personal time together. But honestly, when you work with someone to the extent that Penn and Teller work with each other, or to the extent that me and Paul work with each other, you get your fucking fill of the person. You really do. And like when you do the kind of stuff we do, it's hard to separate work from just hanging out a lot of the time. So, I think it's great though. I mean, I love having Paul around. He's fun to talk to. He's funny as fuck. Sometimes some of his funniest shit is when he doesn't have the camera on him because he feels maybe a little bit more relaxed to just say what he really wants to say. So I really enjoy it. But, I feel like the social needs that we have, we very rarely feel the need to meet socially for like, let's do, dinner, or, let's do this or that or the other thing. He's not really a big go to dinner thing anyway, but, and I am. But, like meeting socially, it's pretty rare. I mean, I'd say probably at this point, like maybe once every other month or something, we'll meet just specifically to socialize. But man, we get our fill, honestly. I mean, like we meet at least 3 times a week, usually more. And a lot of that time is spent just bullshitting and, doing chit chat and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we're pretty close friends. At least from my perspective. It's kind of hard to tell with Paul, honestly. It's kind of hard to tell. Because sometimes you kind of get the feeling like, does this dude like secretly just hate everyone, including me? And other times it's like, well, no, he definitely seems to like me at least better than the average person, so that's good. His hatred of me is less than it is of other people. Good night, TJ. Back to work and watching the entire DFF catalog. Literally the only benefit of work, these slow, boring nights. So ready for more DDNDD. Yeah, me too. It's going to be great. I just wish I'm tired of working with all these little details and stuff. I just want to get to it and get it out there because, I mean, I know everyone's super excited for it. I'm 19 and I couldn't go to the last meetup because I had to turn over my passport to the UK government for visa approval. Well, that sucks. Ever watch Mr. Meaty? No, I don't even know what that is. It sounds like pornographic, which makes me think maybe I will watch it. I don't know. I don't know what Mr. Meaty is, though. Let me see. Maybe I'll just, like, search it. Mr. Meaty. I guess it's some kind of weird puppet thing. All right, I've decided I'm not interested in it. It looks weird to me. Does Galen hang out too often, or the idea of the whole gang hanging together is getting high sounds funny, especially Galen. Does he get high, by the way? Yeah, he gets high occasionally. He's not a big smoker, but he doesn't totally avoid it. He will take a hit here and there. We don't hang out a tremendous amount because, he has some health issues and stuff, and so he's not always available to hang out. But, we talk, and, I think, we're like, we have like sort of a brotherly relationship. But, it's like we could probably go for like 2 years without saying a word to each other and still be just as close. It's just that kind of thing. When Paul passed out, I could tell you cared about him. I mean, yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I feel... like people who I work with or people who are in my fucking circle, I'm very defensive of. I'm always going to have their back, even if I give them a tremendous amount of shit in other regards. But yeah, it was a really scary moment. You hate to see someone that you care about going through something like that. And I feel like, it was, I thought, it's like, in that moment, so many thoughts go through your head just instantaneously. You really realize like the true capacity of your brain because of just the sheer amount of different things that you think at once. And, one of the foremost thoughts in my mind was just like, is this just like the last I'm going to see of Paul, basically? And that's a scary thought because, he is someone who's important to me as a friend and as a business partner and as a person I respect intellectually, a person I respect as a performer, a person that I feel like I've learned a lot from in terms of how to approach content making and things of that nature, and a person who I really am envious of his improvisational abilities and things of that nature. So yeah, it was definitely a jarring moment. My boyfriend cut his finger and passed out when he saw his own blood. Looked the same. Yeah, apparently Paul has had that happen before as well. Like one of his fainting spells a number of years back was apparently brought on by seeing his own blood, which I guess is a pretty normal thing. I remember I cut myself pretty deeply about a year and a half, 2 years ago on a broken chair. And I almost passed out at the sight of my blood. I didn't quite pass out, but I definitely got very lightheaded and nearly passed out. You are given one wish to undo a terrible interpretation of a great concept and replace it with the best possible version. Go. I don't know. That's a really tough question. I don't feel like that's something I can just answer off the cuff. That's something that definitely deserves long hours of contemplation with a fresher brain than what I've got right now. I've never known anyone who had it so it scared the fuck out of me. Yeah, it was it was crazy. Even if it was normal for him to pass out, I think that still would have been a really nasty one because of the way it happened and the things that he hit and, the way that he hit them. Just fucking crazy shit. Yeah, because he went just face first right into a door. Just crazy stuff. I'm surprised he didn't fucking gain. I'm surprised he didn't fucking have a huge gash in his face. Honestly, it's really just brutal. He must have gotten really lucky in the way that he hit in a certain regard because, you would have imagined much worse damage if you'd seen what I saw of that fall. You'd be surprised at just how little damage he incurred. I was surprised that the major damage was actually to his knee because I would have thought for sure it would have been in the face. As someone who just drank a bottle of wine, I know what you mean when you say drinking a bottle of wine gets you to the level of drunk that you want to be at. Yeah. At least at my size it does. I know that there's some people who would definitely be past where they want to be. But I feel like for me, at my size, and I guess for you at your size, The level of drunk I desire is about 1 bottle of wine worth of drunk. No, he did not have to go to the hospital. All right, well, that brings us to 2 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show. And Godspeed.